3, 2, 1, we're live.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Zach, give us a speech.
We were talking about Natty or Nots before this. It's, a hot topic given the Mike O'Hearn podcast that I ended up responding to. I don't want to do what Greg Doucette does. I don't want to do what Derek from More Plates, More Dates does, even though it seems like it would be a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, you're a big dude, man.
He's a full-sized man over here.
He's a man.
Say it again, please.
Really big.
I can't remember the last time I did a power snatch double at 115.
So, quick question. You weren't putting any pressure on yourself to keep doing more. You were just like, let's see what happens.
I want to work today somehow. I don't know what that is. I'm not f***ing disciplined. And something that I've said a lot that might be kind of contrary to what you guys were talking about with Mike O'Hearn, what is I say this a lot. I say low expectations, high standards. One of the things that he said in the video was like, when you look at somebody and you think, well, I can't be like them, I want to be better than them. That should be later. What I love about both of you guys talking about steroids is like, you're always kind of operating on the other side of this thing that we see on the internet constantly. Everyone is on steroids. And I think the only time anyone should really give a shit is at the elite level. Everyone else needs to f*** off and worry about themselves.
People take those videos and they're like, this is fact. This is the truth. Greg's spitting it as it is. He's being truthful with me, and he uses those words during his videos. I've been very keen on how he words things. It's breeding this thing where it's like, oh yeah, Greg's the guy who's going to tell me the truth, and then this guy he's making a video on, that's a fake natty liar. It's dangerous, especially when you're not actually right.
When I did Sarmageddon, the amount of messages I received when I put out how much I was taking, people saying like, I'm taking 10 times as much as you were taking, because the gym bro told me that was safe. The exposure side is like, okay, maybe if somebody does put out some good information.
All anyone got after seeing Bigger, Stronger, Faster is that they need to be on steroids.
Yes.
People are like, that movie was great, man. I hopped on right away. It was f***ing awesome.
Looking at me now, and I said I deadlift over 600 pounds. Would you believe it?
Nope.
Really?
Really? Really?
He was joking, dude.
Okay. Well, that did not work.
His heart sunk. He was like,
well, what? I'm like, well, then this, fuck.
I got you down for a 315 deadlift with a belt.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, on this podcast, we talk a lot about getting great sleep. We've done countless podcasts on it. We almost talk about sleep every single podcast because of how important it is for your recovery, for your fat loss, for your muscle gain, all of that good stuff. That's why we've partnered with 8 Sleep mattresses. Now, 8 Sleep mattress has something called the Pod Pro cover, which you can place upon your own mattress or one of 8 Sleep mattresses. And the cool thing about the Pod Pro cover is that it has dynamic cooling and heating through the night. Now, your body's circadian rhythm and your body's temperature changes through the night, and the mattress cover or the Pod Pro cover changes in accordance to that so that you get the best sleep of your life. Some people like myself sweat when we sleep. I sometimes have woken up in puddles and I thought I pissed myself. But because of the Pod Pro cover, it regulates my temperature through the night so I wake up feeling refreshed and dry. And that's also great for my partner. Anyway, Andrew, how can people get a hold of the Pod Pro cover?
Yes, you guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/power project. That's EIGHT sleep/power project. And you guys will automatically receive $150 off the Pod Pro cover or the Pod Pro cover and mattress combo. Again, that's at 8sleep.com/power project. No code needed. You guys will see a banner across the top saying that you're going to receive $150 off your order. Again, so no code for that. Just head over to that link ASAP. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Does that mean I have ADD?
Probably.
Because that shit.
It's the multiverse, I think.
What the fuck are you saying?
I just think it's like you're going off in another
dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the other dimension.
Well, I can't even get into our own dimension.
Oh, maybe in the other dimension,
I can focus.
you can focus better?
I think so.
I don't know. Maybe
Could
not.
be. Anyway.
So this is where, this is where things get weird and awkward.
You do the countdown thing and then, no?
3, 2, 1, we're live.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Zach, give us a speech. Well, all started when I was 4.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
We're going.
Really?
We're going.
All right.
We recorded
We're going
everything
at this.
you've done so far.
Okay.
Including the shit that you took right when you got here.
They got everything. Slingshot headquarters.
Audio and everything. Yeah.
We got it. We got it all down.
The stuff you're saying about how much you hate your audience was really shocking to me. I'm fucking around, guys.
You hate all of them? That's so weird.
Yeah, I want a new audience. I'm changing my content. This is the announcement. I'm changing it completely.
But on that,
Triathlons.
dude, on that note, the way like your channel is number one, we were talking about like you've garnered a really cool audience, but your commentary on a lot of this stuff is really cool because I haven't seen any other channels that are doing that as impressively as you are. For like Greg does commentary, but it just seems that like the level at which you pick things apart, it's enjoyable and stimulating to listen to.
Thank you. So a couple of processes that I have when I make content, one of them would be like voiceover or like video essay. So I will write everything out and then I'll voice over the top of it. And then I have an editor and I kind of make adjustments to the visuals that go over the
he
top.
has an editor.
Oh, that was a huge pickup.
We thought you were doing it yourself.
So I was for a long time. I was editing until I got to about 60,000 subscribers. And my editor, Alex, if you're out there, I love you. He's made my life a lot easier. And I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at without him. But yeah, so I do that a lot where I write everything out like you would for like an essay. And then you read the essay and then you put visuals over the top. But then there's other times where I just kind of want to go back and forth between an essay and then talking to the camera. And I actually find that to be the best. And then there's other times where I just click record and like, let's go. This is my opinion. This is what I want to get out of it. In all of those accounts, I try to be as middle ground as I possibly can, whether I disagree or agree with them. A lot of times I disagree with someone and they get to my head. It's like, and then if I press record, I'll be ripping on them, you know? And then thank God I don't actually do that, right? But my second question is, why is it getting to me? You know, why am I getting so upset by this? And so I think the best thing for me to do is to actually break down their side, create a steel man, if you will, and then try to understand what they're talking about and then really pinpoint why I disagree and let the audience determine what they think based off of that. And that has been much more successful than calling people out.
It looks like
straight up.
kind of documentary style, and it looks like you are, I guess, drawing attention, much like a documentary would, to something that maybe people weren't thinking about, or they weren't thinking about it from the perspective that you're laying out.
Yeah, that's mainly what I want to do because I also don't want to copy other people. Like I don't want to. We were talking about Natty or Nots before this. It's a hot topic given the Mike O'Hearn podcast that I ended up responding to. I don't want to do what Greg Doucette does. I don't want to do what Derek from More Plates, More Dates does, even though it seems like it would be a great opportunity for me because those videos do really well. How could I do it where it's me? It's my perspective. It's me as a person. And I think that just being authentic is like, it's the only thing that matters to me. And it's really the only thing that matters to my audience. Like they're here for, my channel, my take. They don't want to see. And I can't think of any offhand, but I've definitely not been myself in order to get views. And I regret doing that. But it's like, you live and you learn.
Well, you're being observed, right? And it's hard to pretend that you're not being observed when you're making content that you want to be observed by a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you authentically be your true self? I mean, you would have to not be in recognition. You need to be lost. The only time that you are really your true self, in my opinion, a lot of times it would be like when you're exerting yourself to your fullest is when you're probably just, when you're Olympic lifting and you're in the gym and you're kind of spent or you're frustrated, you're trying to figure it out, and you talk to your buddy next to you like you're authentically yourself, like, man, sometimes this shit just fucking sucks, doesn't it? And you get in like good conversation, you go back and forth, and then maybe you start to troubleshoot and problem solve. But it's kind of hard sometimes when there's a camera or you're going to create content for something.
Yeah, and this is something that I learned from my father. So my father is a a really well-known sports writer, and his journey through sports writing is a really awesome one. But he played Division I football at Northwestern University, and then he was drafted by the Chiefs, and then he went on to writing after he got cut from the Chiefs at some point. And he was one of the bigger writers in Chicago when the Bulls were hot. So it was talk about like a lot of eyes on the things that you did. And I just always grew up like the Bulls would win, and that was just my life. Like I took it for granted. Like the most granted, that was just like how things worked.
And
like,
this was the Jordan Bulls.
Yeah, we just win. Like that's cool. Another championship. Like that's how things are forever. Like now we look at Chicago sports and it's nothing like that. But what I'm getting at is my dad, he would have these conversations at the dinner table about these things. And then I would look at the paper and it would be like almost verbatim what he talked about. So a good example of this was there's like a Harvard men's basketball team, and they were doing really well in the NCAA tournament. And his point was, it's a bunch of seniors. They played together for 4 years. They're not getting drafted. This is a team, you know? And then I pulled out the newspaper in high school. I was just like, I'm going to read it. I didn't really read my dad's articles too much. And I read it and it was like, I've already heard this, you know? And so when I'm thinking about content creation, it's like, what conversation do I have with my buddy when I'm spent like, oh man, this fucking sucks? Or how am I going to work past this? What conversation have I had? And can I repeat that in front of a camera as naturally as I can without being nervous? And it takes a lot of time. But that is ultimately how I have and how I will always make content.
And maybe that's the case with one of the videos, and Seema just showed me, where a lot of people are trying to mimic the way that Chinese lifter is lifting. And you might have even just kind of thought about it maybe subconsciously, like, I've tried to mimic other people, it doesn't work out great.
Right. No, that is a direct conversation I have with my buddies in the gym. It's like everyone wants to fanboy about whatever it may be, and they have no understanding of that person's experience, how robust, how many lifts that person has done.
How many factors are there? And growing up in China and being part of their Olympic team, I mean, the list of stuff goes on and on and on and on.
Right. By the way, guys, the video on Zach's channel is You Are Not Lou. It has 4 million views. It is an amazing video essay, so go check it out.
And the wild thing was, when I made it, I wasn't like, oh, this thing's going to be awesome.
You're like, no one's going to care about this.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, this is
your
Again,
interest.
this is oh, here it is up here. Yeah, this is a conversation that I had with a lot of people. You know, it's good to have idols. It really is, because like, I don't know, who are your idols growing up in strength? With Arnold?
Well, one of them's right here, Bo Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Right?
Bo Jackson, Jordan, and
Kobe.
And
lifting, Arnold.
how many times did you try to imitate them and do what they did? But the reality is, the stark reality is, you don't know what the fuck they did and what the fuck they're doing. You know, you have to really be your own coach and your own athlete, your own person at the end of the day. And that is something that I'm consistently talking about. Yeah, there's Klokov as well.
He also made a video, You Are Not Klokov.
Yeah. And I think like that's the main, like, really important thing. You know about jiu-jitsu and the blue belt blues, right?
Yeah.
And I think, well, oddly enough, I've taken a break from jiu-jitsu, and it was right after I got my blue belt too. So no, it's because I'm trying to get bigger and stronger and back into weightlifting for a number of reasons.
By the way, how much do you weigh, so the audience knows?
I think like 245.
Yeah, you're a big dude, man.
He's a full-sized man over here.
He's a man.
Say it again, please. Really big. Yeah. So like the idea of the blue belt blues is like, you have this as a white belt, you're just like, oh, it's all good if I suck, you know. Then you get promoted and now you're a blue belt, and the idea is like, you still suck, but they're not going to care about you as much because they're trying to develop white belts. White belts are the one, like, that's the broadest audience. You know, you have to get them to continue. Now, as a blue belt, this is where you're on the island, and that's the same thing in
There's
weightlifting.
now expectations of you for yourself and from other people in the class, probably, right?
I wouldn't even go the route of expectations just yet. It's more of along the lines of like, you aren't just going to act based off of how your coach gives it to you, right? So, and this is something that I've dealt with as a coach, like directly. So, and I worked with college students at Texas A&M. They get their syllabus at the beginning of the semester. It says, do this by this time, do this by this time, and if you do it well enough, you will get an A. You know, I can't fucking do that for you in weightlifting, especially once you get about a year, maybe a year and a half or 2 years in. I cannot tell you what you're going to do. So when they say, why did I miss? Why did this happen? Like, I can't act unless you tell me, coach. How can I do that? It's that, you know, you need to be able to auto-regulate your training no matter what is given to you. And you need to hold yourself accountable. And those are things that a lot of younger people are not, that's a standard that they're not really taking, especially from schooling, especially. God damn it. I knew, I have to get this. This is the final. This is all that matters. Okay, see you later. I'm going to study as hard as I can for that final. And you told me I get an A if I do that. And I got an A. Great. That's not how the world works. And, you know, the allegory for the world is the weight room. I cannot tell you how you're going to get anything. No one can. I can't even coach you to it. You need to find ways to coach yourself. Ultimately, in a sport where I'm a 6'4" guy, I was never the big, strong guy in the weight room, ever, with a 6'7" wingspan. And that is why that's why I had any remote success in weightlifting. It was a constant finding out new things. In a sport that there's only 2 things that we do, I had to find new permutations and combinations to train better and to optimize what I have. And so like that video, the You Are Not Lou video, that is kind of what that is a metaphor for. It's a slippery slope when you have these idols and you want to copy them directly because you are an individual. And, there's always obviously the other side of that.
What can we parcel out from the Chinese lifters and from maybe the Eastern Bloc lifters that we could kind of copy? Like what's a common denominator amongst them that makes them do well? That maybe is something that's more feasible and more in line with something that you could accomplish.
They are incredibly thorough in their beginnings. In how they start, like incredibly thorough. The Chinese particularly.
So if you're patient, anyone could probably exhibit some of that.
Yes, and it's like
when you say early, this is different. Early is like 8, 9, 10.
Well, early in their career, but nobody in China starts weightlifting. Like you just don't do it. Like you don't start weightlifting at 18 because you want to, or like the only people that do the sport. It's directly for the Olympics, and it's a program that you get into as a child. That's like, there's really no recreational fun sport like that. I mean, basketball is probably the biggest sport in China as far as recreation goes.
Yeah.
But weightlifting, there is no recreational weightlifting.
What do you guys do for fun? Just like totally silent.
No. I mean, they have recreational things that they do, of course. But weightlifting and Olympic sports are not one of them.
Yeah.
Whereas we would hear like it's all recreational.
Yeah.
You know, and now there's it's cool though. It's a different. Alexei Tarakti said like you guys have the best system because it's so promising. It's happy. It's good, and you can develop some serious athletes. You know, in about a decade.
When he was talking about the U.S. system?
Yeah. And now here we are a decade later, and we're seeing those athletes, and they are substantially. I mean, you were around the strength scene in 2013. You were around a long time, but I'm sure that the USA weightlifting, you know, it was intermixed, and you knew how shitty we were at weightlifting because no one was a weightlifter. CrossFit, that was the boom, 2013, maybe actually 2011, 2012, 2013. Actually might have been earlier here. I grew up in Chicago, so like took a little bit. But that exposed people to not just the gym, but a style of training that has a serious amount of intensity, but without, you know, the guidance of machines. And then those people's kids started doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
And now those kids are not adults, but they're junior level, and they can compete as seniors. And we're seeing that for sure.
Yeah. I think there's also the benefit of those kids. Like there's a lack of specificity. Like, yeah, they were doing weightlifting stuff, but when they're doing CrossFit style workouts or anything, they're probably doing a bit of running. They're doing a bit of plyometrics. They're doing a bit of weightlifting. So they're building different capacities along with what they're doing with the barbell. You know, have you ever read the book Range?
No.
We've mentioned it a few times on the podcast. It pretty much kind of goes into how, like, there's who's that tennis player?
Federer.
Roger Federer. He's one of the greatest tennis players ever. But when you look at his athletic history, he's done a lot of different sports before he focused on tennis. And it kind of goes into how a lot of elite level athletes have had a lot of different athletic experiences that allowed them to build capacities with different sports. And then when they come to this specific thing, they bring a different level of skill to it.
Yeah, GPP, and that's been proven time and time again. I mean, that's really what the Soviets like outwardly said first. It was like, guys, specificity it's not the enemy, but it's like there's so much more here. That was it, right? I mean, like that's what Louis found was like the Soviets. He's the one who brought all those methodologies to us here in the States when we were, training powerlifting and weightlifting out of all of that. And the main thesis behind that was like, if you want to be a better javelin thrower, like you don't just throw different weighted javelins, like you learn how to become more powerful. So how can we become more powerful? Well, we can develop GPP and we can get a little bit more specific and we can develop power out of that. We can develop strength before we develop the power. And then you'll be able to throw the javelin further, or you'll have more fitness to be able to take on more volume of throwing.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like if you're not doing that as a child, like you're really, really, really missing out.
And honestly, on that note, dude, did you see that 15-year-old kid that pulled 705?
No, I haven't.
I'll find it.
Please.
That's crazy.
There's been some mutants.
In his comments, there's a lot of crazy shit. But the interesting thing you were mentioning, for example, the You're Not Lou, and people have a lot of athletes that they look up to. I think because of the age of social media where you can see what a person is doing all the time currently, you miss out on what that individual has been doing since they were young. For example, these Chinese weightlifters and some of these Russian weightlifters have been doing something. They were picked they were bred for this sport since the age of like 7, 8. They've been doing something as it pertains to that. This is crazy.
So his name's Nick Yu. I couldn't remember, but there he is.
Now he has straps and it's sumo, but 15.
Yeah, like
right?
Yeah, what is that about?
It's like hard to even like grasp when you see videos like this. It's like hard. It's like, oh, that's not that much weight. He's not that young. Like I can't tell, even though the numbers are right there. You just can't tell. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in strength sport. We were talking about Lasha.
Too mind-boggling.
Yeah. Lasha snatching 220. Can you pull that up? Lasha snatching 225 kilos.
And what an amazing and incredible athlete that guy is. The way that guy can move is absolutely insane.
I have broken down his technique on my channel plenty of times.
His squats and stuff like that. Like just watch him like front squat and then he just like drops the weight and does other shit with it. Like it's nothing.
So here's 225. Like just watch this. If you please just like you have no idea what that is. No one sees that and they're like, okay, that's a heavy weight. He's kind of big, like someone would call him fat, but like the reality is that is 5 pounds less than 500 pounds. Lasha in this video weighs probably 170 kilos.
Come on. Look at that.
And he is moving that weight in a way that no one can fathom. It's just when you see
he's off the ground, clearly off the ground by
God.
several inches, and then squatting down underneath it, and then just making it look flawless. Like the weight was weightless. Is that fair to say? Like I think it was weightless for a moment, right?
So there was a magazine called O-Lift. They discontinued it, but they did force vectors on the snatch in different stages. And they did it with this guy, Luis Mascara. If you could pull up a video of him snatching, Luis Mascara. And they talked about different stages and the weight.
I'll get it to that one spot just for a second.
Where his feet are up. Yep.
and it's weightless, right? Like this guy just made 500 pounds completely float.
Well, and his body at the same time. Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah, and the 300 something pounds he weighs.
So this is why I actually made a video called I forget what it is, but it's like Beyond Triple Extension. That's what it's called. So a lot of people, they think of this term triple extension in the ankle, knee, and hip, and how valuable that is for sprinting athletes, and that's why we do weightlifting. But when I looked at the force vectors of a snatch, there's far more value in a weightlifting movement than just that initial triple extension. And what you see is when it passes the knees, it's a certain weight, and then when he explodes and pulls on it, this is actually force. So if you were to measure his force output, it goes almost to double.
Wow.
So the weight goes almost to double. Yeah, let's see if. And by the way, this is my editing too. This is way different. I'm wondering at what part of the video. Keep going fast.
Let me just go like this. Oh, I just want to see that.
There's a lot that goes into this. I mean, even just the fact that
But sorry,
Go ahead.
what I was saying was that the amount of force that you put in to a barbell in a snatch changes 4 or 5 times. And it also doubles. Like, so upon receiving it, it's a 150 kilo snatch. And when he's receiving it, they measure the force of being almost 190 kilos. And then when he stands up, it goes back to being 150 kilos.
And
that's why it's such a crazy sport.
there's so much coordination, and there's timing of you getting underneath the weight. You're dropping down extremely quickly, and then you're also
this one right
absorbing. You're also absorbing a lot of force, and like it's kind of hard to think about other lifts that you might do in the gym where you would encounter something similar, like on a squat or bench or deadlift. It almost doesn't seem like those same attributes are there, because in Olympic lifting, you're like throwing the weight up and then you're getting underneath it. You
Yes.
got to catch those weights.
It's the force velocity curve of a deadlift is constant pretty
Right.
much. But the one, in a snatch. So bar force at extension, this is a 147 kilo snatch. Bar force at extension was 280 kilos. Bar force at the catch is 250 kilos. So this varying, coming on to you and going away from you, that is the value that this could have. But obviously, I'm not going to sit here and develop robust snatching technique with general athletes. I understand that. I understand that this is a sport in itself, and that we don't want to spend a ton of time teaching people how to be perfect at the snatch so they can get better at their sport. However, there are variants of both movements, of all of there are distant cousins of the snatch and the clean and jerk that we can use and we can transfer over really fast to athletes.
The girls in Olympic lifting are phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. I mean, they look jacked. They're able to lift some heavy ass weight. And I know sometimes people, females and people sometimes are worried about like gaining too much size or getting bulky or something, but these girls look awesome.
Yeah, I think just like in general, powerlifting, you see it a lot, weightlifting, the idea of having a number is really helpful to somebody who wants to enjoy the gym. Pursuing the number first, on the bar, and then seeing how your body changes, how your mentality changes after. It's a nice little side effect to see your physique change, to see all these different things happen to your body when you're chasing off having like the perfect deadlift or getting your first pull up. I think that a lot of women and honestly men need to get into that mindset
Of having a number to chase
of
or progressive?
Performance.
progressive, right? Performance. Yes, both. Absolutely. Because so many people want to look a certain way or maybe feel a certain way, and their way of approaching it's still archaic. It's still to this day archaic. And which is odd because there seems to be more and more influencers and more coaches online and people with really good information telling them all you got to do is if you work hard in the gym by putting on muscle and have like more of a protein heavy diet, like you don't have to do these crazy crash diets. You don't have to be a cardio bunny. Like you're going to look great. And the greatest thing is you're going to feel great.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard because like, I don't understand how else we could put it, you know?
I think, well, the progression, performance, right? Focusing on what you can actually do. When anybody starts lifting, it depends on where they are, but most people are maybe looking for a physical transformation. And it's very difficult to take your mind out of how you look every single day. But as we know, we look the way we do at this point, but we also enjoy the fuck out of this. Despite anything, we'd be doing this every single day, despite what we looked like, because of how enjoyable the gym and performance and progression is. Now, the look is a byproduct of that, but when athletes are truly able to focus on progressing somehow and they truly learn to build the habit of enjoying the gym, or not even just the gym or any sort of physical activity, the body will come. You can't rush the body. It will come. But the first thing you got to focus on is learning how to love this shit and having it become a true habit. That's the big deal.
Yeah. So do you know that clip with Jocko Willink where it's with my buddy Chris Williamson, my roommate. Shout out Chris.
What's up,
Great
Chris?
podcast.
He did a podcast with Chris, and he was talking about the difference between discipline and motivation. And he said, motivation can come and go, but discipline is ultimately what matters, because you're going to do whatever the fuck it is, no matter what, no matter how you feel. And the way that I see the weight room, I don't see myself as disciplined. And I look at Jocko, and he's talking about discipline. He's talking about all these things, and it sucks because I'm like, fuck, I'm not like that. This isn't hard for me.
Yeah.
So I'm motivated. And this is what I found out. It was like I outsource my motivation. So, Chris, what are we doing today? Are we going to the gym? That's my motivation. Chris, right there. He'll literally, we have two separate doors, and I'll be like kind of in bed still, and he'll ring my doorbell. Ding, 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 and then I'll pop up out of bed. He'll rip on me for 5 minutes straight. We get in the car, we go to the gym, and we just go as hard as fuck in the gym. That's my motivation. I'm his motivation. But we're up early. We're going to the gym.
But wait, you don't enjoy the gym?
But no, and that's the thing. I enjoy that, but some would call that disciplined. But for me, I'm just creating new forms of motivation at every turn. If I don't feel like going to the gym, how can I make it so that I feel like I want to go to the gym? And I realize I do this a lot in Olympic weightlifting too, because when you don't have a day where you can lift heavy and feel like you lifted heavy, it is really, really discouraging. So if you go in there and you kind of have this feeling of I'm going to do something hard today that I don't have very high expectations of myself. So one of them, it's just a workout where we just did power snatch double. Just you power snatch and then you power snatch. And I'm working out with one of my training partners. His name's Dylan Cooper. He's a great weightlifter, really, really solid coach as well, and really smart guy. And I already did hypertrophy training in the morning with Chris.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to go in and go hard. I know I'm going to suck. I know I suck today, whatever. So I walk in, I put my cell phone completely away, and I just start power snatching. And the only thing I focus on is here's 50 kilos. Let me do this perfectly. Boom, I did it. And I walk back and forth. I just walk back and forth, put 70 kilos on. This is the only weight I have to hit today. 70 kilo snatch, 70 kilo snatch, walk back and forth, 90, 100, 110. Then I got 115 for a double. And I'm like, that's some of the best lifting I've ever done in my life. I can't remember the last time I did a power snatch double at 115.
So, quick question. You weren't putting any pressure on yourself to keep doing more. You were just let's see what happens.
I want to work today somehow. I don't know what that is. I'm not fucking disciplined. You know what I mean? It's there's something, and then all of a sudden I get an amazing workout in, and it's whatever. So this is actually a video that I'm currently working on right now. It's kind of trying to work in some nuance to what Jocko says, because what he says scares the shit out of me. If I'm fair, I want to think that I'm a badass and that I'm disciplined and all that shit, but I don't feel like that. And maybe for someone else, it's no, what you're talking about, Zach, that's discipline, dude.
I think what you're alluding to is this is what you love to do. This is what you like. And so therefore it doesn't feel like discipline. But you might have other things in your life. As an example, maybe you're probably in a phase where you're trying to turn things more businessy. And maybe there's aspects of that you don't really love. And then so you then you hire somebody, right? And you bring them on a board. But I mean, when it's things that you like, you either like them enough to where you do them often and it appears that you're disciplined, or you don't. And if you don't do them, it just means you're not as interested as you thought you were. Whether it's to diet for a bodybuilding show, or whether it's to power lift or weight lift or anything really.
First off, the reason I said goddamn is because you hit the nail on the head with the fucking business stuff.
Once we just go outside of like your actual like niche thing, then it gets all fucked up.
Yes. But also the idea of not enjoying it. What I like to think I do is create that joy somehow, or create a game. Or so the best diets I ever did was I would take a picture of my food and post it to my Instagram story, and I put the number 1. Okay. Then I took another picture, number 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 100 meals in a row. And that was so fun. And like, everyone's like, oh man, meal number 99. Like
like ate pretty well for 100 meals in a row. Something like that. That's
it was
great.
it was so cool.
So you
and
gamify it.
I didn't really have, and I'm horrible with nutrition in that way. You can't get me to weigh shit out. Like the one thing I do is I will stress out about getting enough protein. I figure this is a good time.
Try that
sticky
shit
bun.
at some point.
Yeah.
But
let's get high too with some kratom, Nine Bullet. We'll do some legendary.
But that's what I'm saying is like I will try to outsource my motivation in some way so that I do like it. I want to pull this up because
I'm also going to steal your hand from my foot.
Oh, this guy? Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think of discipline as like the distance away from your goal, either with time or actually really not being able to see the potential of it coming true.
Yeah.
Can you say that again, please?
And still fucking doing it anyway. So I actually wrote it because
Well, here's the thought process I've had for a while. Like, I don't really consider things to be, I don't really consider things to be hard necessarily, or maybe I think that people should reinterpret what they think is hard, because the difficulty level that you think something's going to be, by the time you get closer to it, it's going to have decreased. It's going to dissipate a lot because you already did the work to get there. And so it feels badass, and we feel like badasses sometimes doing something. And that's probably why we record a run or record a lift and like, hey man,
there's the motivation too. It's recording.
Yeah. You're motivated, you're fired up, but it's motivation within like a bubble of something that we already love to do.
Right.
I'd imagine like this weightlifting thing didn't come out of nowhere. You probably did some other sports.
Oh yeah.
And you either found out that you were halfway decent at them and got some good feedback from it, or you found out that you sucked at it and you found weightlifting. But either way, it led you to this conclusion that this is what you like to do now, and then you start to just do it. So I think hard work and motivation a lot of times are, and even discipline, I think they're all misunderstood, and I think they're all a little almost mythological in a way. Because if you were to take, somebody like Jocko Willink is so well rounded, so you're like, I don't know where I would place that guy to try to put him in fear. Probably nowhere. But if you were to take the UFC heavyweight champion right now, and you were to drop him off somewhere where there's a war going on and give him night vision and put him, he's got to drop down from a fucking helicopter or whatever, they're going to be terrified.
Yeah.
If you took a Navy SEAL that's already been in war, that's already been doing those things, he would be just as scared to probably go on the morning news and talk as an anchor because they've never done that before.
Yeah.
They're going to feel like they're going to shit themselves while they're sitting there ready to talk. So a lot of it has to do with exposure and what you've been exposed to in the past. But I think it just always goes back to, what do you like to do?
Yeah, and I guess I just struggle to understand that like dry definition of discipline. And like, what does he really mean by that? And that, we don't have to come up with an answer, but these are the things like I wrote this on the plane ride here, and this is like going to be in my next video.
This is really cool. I didn't really realize like at the heart of it, you're a writer.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
dope.
came directly from my dad. And I never thought I would be ever in a million years.
Probably always thought he was a nerd.
No, so like this is one of the things that I've said a lot as well. the most valuable thing I ever learned in school as it pertains to making content was the 5-paragraph essay.
That's great.
Did you know
dope.
the 5-paragraph essay?
I
the
do
classic?
not. That's why I
it's-
don't have the
you have your
writing going on. You
Yeah,
do.
so your intro is topic sentence. Then you have your 3 reasons or 3 points.
Look it up, Andrew.
And then your closing statement. And then your next 3 paragraphs fall in line with those 3 points. And then you have your closing thing. Like I've actually done a 5-paragraph essay like multiple times on but it's just, it works, right? Because if you have something you want to say, you need to point out what it is, like what your thesis is, right? That's one of the points in
it's
the
fucking
intro.
gold for making YouTube videos.
Yeah. It
actually
Can you
is.
read some of that to us? Or
Yeah.
is this private stuff?
There we go. Introduction, body, conclusion. 5-paragraph
It's
essay.
all right there.
Yeah.
This man has built a whole business off of the
I'm
5-paragraph
telling
essay.
you, man, I just realized this. I think I was like at dinner and I was like, what the hell?
Don't you hate realizations like this? They
Yeah.
just make you feel so
Yeah.
dumb.
School
You're like,
isn't
"It's right
useless."
there."
But
Yeah,
this
I
is the
know.
crazy thing.
That's
I
what I was
learned
gonna
this in
say.
3rd grade. You know, that's how you write. That's how you write things. And I remember my teacher saying, "Well, look, if you tell me the sky is blue, and I say, what could I come back to disagree with you with?" And I go, "Well, it's not always blue. Sometimes it's gray." Good point. Now be ready for that point. So it's like you're already making the argument against you, right? And so you have to be ready for that. Now you can counter it before they can even make it. That's just all I try to do is like most people out there, everyone has an opinion, okay? To make that opinion a thesis, you just need to write about it. And if you have a thesis, people will always want to listen to it because it might confer or deny what they already believe. And I've just found that this outlet of doing this is so goddamn fun.
It's really interesting because, like, when he was showing me the Olympic lifting video, I was like, I don't even know how interested I am in this. But as I was watching it, it was great. I was like,
drawn
this,
in.
yeah, I totally got drawn in.
So this is one of the things that I said in here. If we look at discipline as the antithesis of motivation, we might start to think that disciplined actions are the things that not only we don't want to do, but they do not confer a benefit with regards to motivating factors. And then I give an example. If my goal is to bench press 225 and my current max is 185, the motivation to get in the gym is inherent, right? So no matter what I do.
Yeah,
if
why'd you say that goal if you're not going to follow through with anything?
But like, this is the thing is like, Jocko says discipline eats motivation for breakfast. You know, discipline is the one that matters. But all of my disciplined actions, are they really disciplined if I'm motivated directly by a goal? And that's what I'm questioning. Is like, I know that I want to bench press 225. So when I wake up in the morning, that's not out of discipline, that's out of motivation. Right? So what if there was a way for me to continually create motivation for things that maybe I don't want to do, for actions that will make me a better person? Right? Is that its own form of discipline? And that's the question that I'm trying to ask. And it's like, there might not be an answer. And I'm not disagreeing with Jocko Willink. I love the guy.
Yeah, don't you dare.
I'm also scared shitless of him.
He'll kill us all.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you know,
we got to delete this.
Delete this part of the book. But I have a question for you guys. Could we, and this might be stupid, but couldn't we just say that habit is synonymous with discipline? Like if we just thought about all of those things, right? Like because at this point for us, I'm not disciplined to go into the gym and exercise. It's my habit. When I don't do it, I don't feel as good. And I know that because that's a habit of, and not even just the gym, just physical exertion. I know for me, when I don't have enough physical exertion, I become depressed. It's happened to me in the past. So I don't need just the gym, but I need something to exert so I feel good. It's a habit now.
so the thing is, though, it's like, what if it didn't make you feel good?
This is the thing, though. That's what I wonder, because initially, right? For example, running. We've picked up running. My first run, I knew that I wanted to have the ability just to be able to run a few miles, right? And for that, my goal was that running could become habitual. Okay, so
That's pretty cool.
my first few runs shit sucked. It was painful. My gait was bad. My upper body was tight. After the run the next day, my calves and ankles and Achilles, all that shit was sore. But I knew that over time, this will feel better because we all have the experience of the gym feeling bad at first. You're really sore. The DOMs are rough. You don't want to get up and do it the next day, but you know that it can become something that doesn't have you feel pain, that becomes beneficial. So my goal with running was to have it become habitual. That was my goal.
Right.
And now it is habitual where I can do a 3-mile run and I'm not wrecked the next day. But it took initially my perception of the pain after the run. I was like, this is just something to get through to get to the point where it can become habit.
Yeah.
But did you need motivation to turn it into a habit?
Did I need motivation to turn it into a habit?
This is the thing. Like,
I think James Clear did a good job of describing a lot of this in Atomic Habits. Tim Ferriss has talked along these lines before, and I think maybe what we're trying to describe right here sometimes is that if we can lower the barrier of entry into whatever it is that we can do, if we can lower the hurdle down enough, then maybe we're cool with jumping over it. And maybe it doesn't feel like discipline because we lowered it. You said, hey, Chris, you want to work out? If he said no, now the hurdle just got a little higher.
Yeah.
And you look outside and it's a storm, it's raining, it's fucking cold out. You're like, I don't know. And you just maybe sit there. Maybe it makes everything a little bit harder, but you're saying that it might be a skill set to listen to that YouTube video where someone's yelling at you, or you find something motivational, or maybe even you find motivation in music or playing the drums or playing the guitar, and you lean on that. And once you do that, go for that walk or whatever it is,
Right.
then your mind is back to being a little bit more clear, where you're not as frustrated, you're not as worried about what's going to happen with the day. And you're like, you know what? I do need to go fucking work out because that's the best thing for me. It's good for me.
I guess my only argument against Jocko would be that it's not, you can't place so much weight. Like, it's the way that he says it's discipline is here and motivation is down. And I feel as though it's more of a duality. It's more of a yin and yang type of thing, masculine and feminine. It is a balance between both is what you need. That's how I feel. That's how I've operated because
Sounds fair to me to put them all in a blender. Yeah. And just utilize whatever you got to
Right.
get through each day.
Yes. I need more of that gamifying and whatever it may be for business. Did you ever struggle with kind of like switching over into being more business minded?
I never had to. So I didn't have, my situation is unique. You know, I invented something. So it's just different. You know, it's, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like, it almost feels like just being super lucky. You know, I know some people are like, oh, you know, it's not lucky, but it's a really crazy blessing to create a product, to have a thought in your head, and then to make it, and then to put it out in the world, and the world receives it well, and they purchase it, and it turns you into a millionaire. It's really fucking weird and hard to describe. But luckily for me, my wife is also my business partner, so she handles a lot of that side of things.
Right.
I've had to navigate some of it, but we just learned early on that wasn't going to be my main place to hang out. And even stuff like dealing with employees and stuff was difficult for me because I'd rather just be like your homie rather than to like be your boss.
So I guess like one thing that could happen for you is like, you know, you can be so grateful for going like this, right? All of a sudden like that. You're like, wow, I shouldn't be here. I'm a millionaire now, you know? But at some point you're like, okay, well, this is my level. I'm here and I want to go there. And the only way to do that is to have some sort of practice that I might not be so good at. That's kind of what I'm struggling with right now. You know, it's like there's aspects of this that are beyond being just creative. As you guys might be able to tell, I'm more of a creative-minded type of person. And I want to be able to hack certain algorithm things and whatever that may be. Like I would love to make some sort of business moves. And that's where like maybe I don't have the discipline to prepare for taxes, to prepare for all of these different things. And that's where I would like to gamify that sort of thing. But I think, you know, in your situation, it's like when you take that jump, you still want to keep going, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You still, so it might take some work that you're not used to or not ready for, even though like I don't know, 5-10 years ago, you'd be like, there's no fucking way I'd be a millionaire. Like, what are you talking about?
It's a lot of effort, it's a lot of conversation. I don't always want to approach my wife with certain ideas or concepts until I have them locked in a little bit better. And so, because like she'll explain why it's not going to work, but that's kind of like her job. We have to go back and forth, as you were talking about that negotiation of like what color the sky is. We have to kind of go back and forth on stuff. And some things are just, they don't make sense to make at this particular time, or sometimes it doesn't make sense to hire somebody at a particular time. But we're just trying to like, weigh out the pros and cons of it to keep navigating to do exactly what you're talking about, is, some sort of constant improvement is like a hard thing to like always quantify, but we just want to feel really good about what we do, and we want to I feel like there's still more inventions and products and ideas I have to assist with exposing people to certain things. So that's a big mission for me nowadays, is just to try to not necessarily more exposure for myself, but more exposure to some things that I think can really help people.
I think that this is a awesome thing, the improvement, the idea of like not really being able to quantify it or knowing the answer. And this is where being creative minded is like actually really fun. Something I say with people who don't know whether they should split jerk or power jerk, right? Like, which one should I do? And a power jerk variation, for those listening, watching, the bar comes up off of your front rack, and then you get underneath it and you lock out your elbows. You do not move your feet at all. You just kind of catch with bent knees. If you think about a push press, you bend your knees and you just lock them out and you just do an overhead press. That's a pretty simple one. And then an overhead press, there is no leg movement at all. There is the power jerk, and then there's the split jerk. The split jerk's a little bit more technical. And a lot of people say, which one should I do? Should I do the split? Should I do the power? I feel like this when I do this. I feel like this. And I say, as long as you're training, as long as you're experimenting, you're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. As long as you are thinking, not just thinking, you're doing, you're out and you're exploring, like you're putting in work, and you're not just paralysis by analysis type of thing, you'll be okay. And that's where I think, like, for someone like you, if you're worried about improvement and you don't know whether you are improving or not, the fact that you are acting is good enough. It really, really is. That is one of the biggest lessons that I have told people repeatedly in my videos. I made one. Do you guys know who Kyriakos Grizzly is?
Yeah.
Okay. So look, I made a video about it, about Kyriakos Grizzly, and it's he has this saying, for the difficult. It said, somebody asked, why do you train so hard? And he just said, for the difficult, which is really funny. Iconic, actually. And I think that just exploring hard things and exploring difficult things when you don't know the answer is so much better than doing nothing at all. It's ridiculous.
I've seen this guy before.
Yeah.
Well, it's to make everything else, it's to mitigate. Everything's a stress mitigator. You make yourself strong to mitigate being weak in certain times of your life, and you do things that are difficult so that when things come at you in life that might be interpreted as being sad or difficult or whatever it might be, they're going to be easier and easier for you to handle the stronger that you are.
But and I think that getting to that difficult spot is simpler than you think. Like, because I have been at places in my life where I will be like, I can do this, except I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to sit right here and think about all the things that I could do, right? And the best parts of my life is I would just do something. And then I would realize, oh, that's not the thing. And I'll go this way, and then I'll go that way. And so what, back to motivation and these things is like, as long as you can take some sort of step, something else is going to happen. And then you create this chain reaction that is just fucking glorious. And it can help so much with anxiety and depression and a lot of problems that people face that keep them out of the gym. And one of the things I said in that video where I talk about the difficult is like, if you literally take a step with your right foot and then you go, okay, now I'm going to take a step with my left and then my right. And then now you're touching your car door. Well, you might as well open up your car door. You might as well sit in it. You might as well turn the key. You might as well go to the gym. My best times weightlifting ever, I've been so nervous about the weight that I need to hit. so nervous. Like I'm shaking and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I'm so scared. But I get to the platform and I go, okay, well, here's the barbell. I'm going to snatch it. This is all I have to do today. Snatch this fucking barbell by itself, 20 kilos. Okay. Then I feel good with that. 50 kilos goes on. I've already given this analogy. 50 kilos goes on, 70 kilos. Mm-hmm. All I'm focusing on is that tiny little step in front of me every day. And all of a sudden that step gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like we think of progressive overload. We're down for that. We're down for progressive overload when it comes in a program, with a methodology, but we're not down for it when it's practical everyday things.
Mm-hmm.
People, if they want to lose weight, they want to go all in. Okay, well then if you can't go all in, then what happens? Oh, I'm not fucking going to the gym. I'm going to get pizza. I'm going to go,
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you actually, the 10-minute walk,
Mm-hmm.
like that was so far ahead of its time. I don't know did you get that from somebody? I know that's we're talking about walking here, but
It came from a study. There was a study done where they did multiple bouts of 10-minute walks versus metformin, which is a pharmaceutical that helps regulate your blood glucose.
Yep.
And then they also did it with maybe like an hour walk. And what they found was that the intermittent 10-minute walks were more valuable.
at walking.
Right.
Walking. That's like, I love walking, and I've snatched 143 kilos. Like you've deadlifted how much? 7 something.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever, but like people would expect like, oh, a workout session for you has got to be fucking intense.
Right.
No, dude, I will consider going on a long walk or playing pickleball, a serious workout for me, and you should too. I think when we get people like, an example of this is like people who are having weddings,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, I need to get in shape for the wedding. So they have to do something crazy. Gym membership, personal trainer, crash diet. Okay. Like none of that is going to lead to anything with longevity at all.
Yeah, you never hear anybody say like, I'm going to get in shape because I'm about to get married and I want to be around for a really long time with the person that I care about. Like people don't say that in their like late 20s or early 30s.
Yeah.
Not thinking that way. They're just getting better for that one picture and then they're going to get fat again.
Exactly.
Yes. But that's the thing. It's like, it's funny. A lot of the things you're mentioning, Zach, are things that we talk about like all the time on the show. That a lot of this stuff comes down to, number one, starting small, but then slowly increasing what you're doing to have it become a habit. Like, for example, years ago, I don't know if it was 2017, we picked up the habit of fasting, right? And initially, it was quite difficult to just go half a day
It
without
was
eating.
horrible at first.
Yeah, like even just skipping breakfast felt like shit. But now it's to a point where sometimes we eat one meal a day. Sometimes we won't fast at all. But it's to a point where we can just dip in and out of it without it feeling the least bit stressful. And the benefits, I found that even for myself, the benefits for me have been like, I don't have a problem with I don't attach any type of emotion to hunger like I used to. Before, when I'd get hungry, I'd be like, fuck, I'd be kind of stressed. I got to get some food in my mouth. Now it really doesn't matter. But it's because it didn't start off that way.
Right.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we know that strength starts from the floor, which is why we want you guys to build strong feet. That's why we partnered with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, and we've been wearing these shoes for over a year now. Not only are they flexible, zero drop, meaning they're flat. They have a wide toe box so your feet can do what they need to do inside of the shoe. They also look great. If you go on their website, they have a lot of amazing options from casual wear to in-gym wear to running. With you go with Vivo Barefoot, you can't go wrong, and your feet will get stronger as you wear the shoes. So if you're interested in checking them out, head to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and at checkout, use the code POWERVIVO20 to save yourself 20% off your entire purchase. Enjoy the episode.
You know what I
What
mean?
about just like not attaching emotions to weights and not attaching emotions like
Okay,
the weights don't need an assignment. They
Yes.
don't need that attachment. I mean, I totally understand what you say. I used to write shit down and that's why I stopped writing shit down. I'm like, I don't even need to see this. I just want to go in and feel it.
Yes, 100%. And this is, okay, so I guess we can end up starting to talk about this, but Nsima had voice messaged me on Instagram following the video that I made about Mike O'Hearn on the podcast.
Great video.
And one of the things he had talked about was the expectation effect and just expectations in general. And something that I've said a lot that might be kind of contrary to what you guys were talking about with Mike O'Hearn, what is I say this a lot. I say low expectations, high standards. So it sounds horrible to say have low expectations, but the only reason I say that, and again, it's not an ism, but it's a saying. You know, you can't put all your chips onto a saying. There's so much nuance here. Yeah. But the reason I say that is the word expectations has expect. And just like you were saying, you know, you have these numbers on a paper, those are your expectations. Now that sucks if you don't meet those expectations. And so here is where I actually found the middle of the road with this. The crazy elite and really hard workers can and should have expectations. And those expectations will take a fucking mental toll. And those expectations are the edge. I have a video. I can't think of what it's called. It's with
the
Michael
one on Jordan. Yeah, we saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is it, right? People think that greatness is virtuous. Greatness in sport is virtuous when it is almost the exact opposite.
Yeah, a great man is not a good man.
Right.
Oftentimes.
Oftentimes. Or they are a good man. They just have to change into a fucking monster that is not good to be around to do what they want to do. And it's really, you know, another guy, Matt Fraser, is a guy who I like to think about. He talks a lot about the stress that he puts on himself. And to every person I've ever met, I would tell them to do the exact fucking opposite. Never do that to yourself, especially if you want to learn how to go to the gym, if you want to get stronger, if you want to get in more shape. Never do that because you will shut down, right? Unless, I mean, we could do it to 1,000 people. Tell them to act like Jordan, Matt Fraser, and you would find like 10, you know, of them that would rise to the top. But in general, you don't want to go with that approach. So that's why I say the low expectations, high standards. But if you're at the advanced level, you might have to put on some serious personal pressure that will be mentally damaging. This is what we've seen time and time again. And it might not be as visible in some athletes. Like I don't really see it in Steph Curry. I don't, and some athletes.
He just seems too happy, huh?
Yeah, but there's something there. Yeah. I don't know him. We don't know him. We don't know what he puts himself through. And it might not always be outward. It might not just be how they treat other people.
I think for some
might
guys,
be how they treat themselves.
Yeah. I think for some people, it also might be a little bit
I'm
of just
crack this, by the way.
Yeah, go for it. Cracking open some mind bullet potion. I think for some people, it's just mathematical sometimes. Yeah, just try to figure out half. It doesn't really matter. Or maybe it does.
Even if you do the whole thing, you will be okay.
He's a big
Or
guy.
not.
The taste is really good.
I just did the whole thing.
You did the whole thing. Okay, now I just want to warn you.
He loves the flavor.
Okay.
We're getting an update about how much he enjoys the flavor.
Loves the flavor.
He looks like he's okay. My friend. Look, Zach, look at me. When your palms get sweaty and your toes start to tingle, do not worry. It's totally okay.
And if you feel my thumb,
That's not going to happen, by the way. No, that's not going to happen.
My thumb.
I was joking. That's not going to happen.
That like instantly made him high. That's the first.
Now I'm just going to finish it. He did full. I got to follow Zach's footsteps.
He's like, it's so bright in here. What's going on?
And loud.
People.
What's that
dilated.
noise?
Can you turn this off?
I was going to say,
Overshot.
I think for some people, sometimes it's just mathematical almost, you know? Curry, his dad was a basketball player too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think sometimes for some people, it's just like a mathematical equation. Like you might know Olympic lifters are sort of known for this, especially the Russian lifters.
Right.
Where it's like, these are the inputs and this is the output. So it's like, there's not even almost maybe like if the coach knows the way, you know, and I realize that could change. If the coach knows the way and the athlete knows the way, then it's like, this is the way. Like, we're just going to go this is the way that we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really a deviation from it. There's probably not a lot of reasons to get nervous about it because we know that you're going to hit this lift on this particular day because all the inputs were there. And maybe that's what also separates out some of these other countries is that all the other variables that you might have in your life, if you're an American and you're going to like a public school, I mean, that's got to look way different than what some of these athletes might encounter if they're Olympic bred athletes from the time they're really young. Their whole life might be
Of
set
course.
up to just do that. And so therefore the 3 sets of 3 they did in the previous few weeks, is going to lead to this result. Whereas maybe an American athlete just had like too much fuckery going on in between
So
to where they could really zero in on that.
I definitely want to talk about this because this can lead right into the Mike O'Hearn thing and the main kind of stress test that I have had with that. But I have one thing as well that goes with the toxic mindset. And this is a theory, and again, this might be a video that I want to make. There is something that the best athletes are working against. Something that we might call a genetic disadvantage, a lifestyle disadvantage, and they work against that, and it gives them an edge. Someone who used to be fat as a kid, too short. Steph Curry has he has good genetics for this sport, like by all accounts.
Yeah.
But if you put it on paper, he doesn't. Where did he play basketball? He played Western Kentucky or something
Yeah.
like that, right? He's 6'4", not any
I think he's
particular
6'3".
6'3", not any particularly long wingspan. Like he had to work against that. Michael Jordan had a lot of things that he had to work against, and there's something about that I find fascinating. A perfect example is Whiplash. He knows J.K. What's his name? J.K. Simmons' character.
Oh.
He knows that it's not the most talented guy that I want. It's the guy who is fighting against something. It's like, and it's not always just like, we always think of the classic, who's the guy that works hard versus the genetic one. It's like, no, there's something fucking deeper than that. That's I find so interesting. It's not just that Miles Teller's character works harder. It's like he's battling when he's on the drums. He's battling every day. And in doing so, he like creates these different styles of genetics that are actually working for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's why I really dislike the overarching term genetics, because what the fuck does that even mean? Like one of the tests, the vertical, is like probably the simplest test of power as far as genetics go, right? And it's likely that somebody we would say has better power genetics will be able to have a higher vertical. We can say that, right? But every step of the way, the factors get more and more and more and more and more. Every sport, there's added factors. I would say Tom Brady, like if I saw him in a business suit walking around, I'd be like, that's a good looking dude. He's got good genetics for looking good. He's 6'4", whatever. But if I said football, genetics, what? When in fact, he might have the greatest genetics of all time for football. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers might be one of the best athletes on earth. And people be like, that's crazy. Best athlete. What are you talking about? Like, he can't run that fast. It's like, but his brain, there's something in there. There's something, right?
Mikey Musumeci.
Oh yeah. His body type, I mean, he's got some crazy
Been
dimensions.
doing it since he was a kid, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And I can guarantee you he's working against something.
Yeah.
But that was my theory around
Working
that.
against something in what way? What are you?
Again, this is something that I have to like write. I have to write it out, and I have to create this kind of back and forth between myself. But
I
it's
see,
like,
I see what you mean, but I'm just trying to help you express
Yeah.
it even further, maybe.
yeah, like,
But like, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, like his dad walked out on him type thing, and
yeah,
But
yes.
you're gonna know my name type deal, right?
Yeah, and just how many good athletes got their asses kicked by people at their same age, and somehow they just went, and it just kept going up for them. And whoever was beating their asses kind of stayed the same. Maybe they improved, but nowhere near as much as the other guys improved.
Or maybe it wasn't like another player that kicked their ass. Maybe it was just their own brothers.
Yeah,
You know,
or
like-
themselves,
yeah.
or themselves.
Right.
Matt Fraser constantly talks about how much he beat up on himself,
Hmm.
which I would never, ever, ever tell anyone to do. But it worked, and it worked really, really fucking
I
well.
wonder when he talks if it's almost a little bit like a reinforcement of like when he talks about how hard he works. I've seen him talk about that stuff too. Maybe it's like a reinforcement of like, I know this is what it takes for me to be the best, so I'm going to go and fucking do that.
when I hear him speak, it's all like, I'm so worried about my competition. He's like, if I don't fucking work as hard as I can, like, I don't know. I don't want to leave anything to doubt. It's the way that he talks is like, it's like
gives you anxiety.
He's like scared. He's scared. He's fucking scared. And it's like, you back an animal into a corner, any animal, and they will fight to the death. And so he's creating this scenario. It's like, this is so obvious. I mean, I said this in the toxic mindset thing. Michael Jordan created that scenario every fucking day.
Yeah.
He said hi to someone and the other guy like kind of went like this to him and looked the other way. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to beat this motherfucker's
I took
ass.
that personally.
I took that personally. The meme that everyone knows.
barely said hi to me. He kind of did.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
And he said, didn't he say something? He's like, don't mess with Black Jesus or some shit like that. Or, it's like, Jesus Christ, Michael, fucking chill out, dude. But it works, it's like, that's how he's winning. That's how that, and those are things. So, that's where I think if you look at a guy like Mike O'Hearn, okay, he is at that
White Jesus level.
he is at that level as far as aesthetics and strength and gym culture goes. He has so many hours of training and eating and sleeping the gym. It's like actually hard to fathom, right? And one of the things that he said in the video was like, when you look at somebody and you think, well, I can't be like them, I want to be better than them. That should be later. That should occur later. Whereas the other thing that he said was, you shouldn't care about what I do. You need to look at yourself, right? That's what people should focus on, is look on your own improvements. So those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. They just happen in different stages. That's, I think, the overarching thesis behind that video.
How do I focus on myself when I think that you're fucking cheating?
So
like you cheated to beat me in the clean and jerk.
And I'm glad you brought this up, because in weightlifting, there is so much nuance to this. And what I love about both of you guys talking about steroids is like, you're always kind of operating on the other side of this thing that we see on the internet constantly. Everyone is on steroids. Everyone. A lot of people might not know this, but my ex-wife was a 2-time Olympian and was a finalist in the Olympics and was as clean as a fucking whistle.
What sport?
Swimming.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, elite athlete. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of athletes in her world that are clean. I know it
they
to
don't
be
know
true.
Shit about performance enhancing drugs.
But here's the crazy thing is, though, somebody out there is going to move the goalpost and say, how do you really fucking know, Zach? And you guys talk about this, the testing, well, they could have cycled off, so on and so forth. We know that debate. But it is important to know that there are people on steroids and that steroids do provide this massive advantage. And I think the only time anyone should really give a shit is at the elite level. Everyone else needs to fuck off and worry about themselves. Right? So I think another thing too that people are going to all the time bring up is if you're selling something based off of your body that you got off of the use of androgens.
Yes.
And I think there is definitely some validity to that.
Yeah, if you feel you're being lied to, it sucks, right?
Right. And that's what people ultimately felt about Mike O'Hearn, was that he may be selling things, he may be doing things based off of this idea of being natural when that is in question constantly. I'm honestly like, we were talking about it before the show. Like, I don't want to do, actually I might've been talking about it with your brother. I don't want to copy the natty or not call out things. It is nice to talk about it because it goes, all my revenue and everything goes boop. Oh, great. You talked about being natty or not, right? Everyone loves to see that. But the reality is, what I like to discuss is it important? And how does it change the way that we think about training?
Is what important, real quick?
Calling people out on this level.
Okay.
Does it make a fucking difference? The Rock what's one of the Hemsworth brothers?
Yeah.
Commonly called out for being on steroids. The idea that one of them would even ever consider admitting to doing steroids is laughable. What good would it provide them or anyone around them if they did that? A lot of people go to the movie theater, hold up a foam finger, watch The Rock, watch Liam Hemsworth smash into shit, and then they go home. They don't give a shit about how many reps or sets they did. They're not part of our sphere, this tiny little world. We need to understand that pop culture is so fucking massive. Like if we went on the street, like you start to talk to people about weight training, you realize how small this world really is. And how small this world of people who actually give a shit about natty or knots are. I'm sure there are people out there that wouldn't even think that Arnold was on steroids. They probably think he's natural still until someone says, well, he took steroids, right? So I guess the main thing I'm getting at is like, it's important to point out if someone's lying for their own benefit, it's important to let people know that.
I have a question for you then, because this is where the water gets murky. How do you know? Like how would you judge? Like if you were like, this isn't a natural physique, and you took a look at somebody, what would be this is a person that claims that they're natural. Pull up Alex Eubank, please. Alex, last name.
Anyone that looks better than
Eubank.
Zach is clearly on tons of shit.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm asking you this,
I know a lot of people like that though.
They think
I
that
do.
way, yeah.
I do, especially in weightlifting. And I would love to talk about the disparity in drug use in weightlifting because I
Yeah.
do have a lot on that. But yes.
Yeah, like this kid, I'm pretty sure Greg just made a video about him too, but Greg is telling people that he's on drugs. Now, I don't know if
How old's this guy?
he's a teenager. I think he's like 18, 19, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, think about, he's a lacrosse player. I played lacrosse my whole life.
Sick.
Yeah, I mean,
Shit, he looks awesome.
Shit.
So lighting, all I can say about this is lighting, pump, what you eat before these pictures. Every last one of them
I
is
think
dolled
makes a
up.
difference, yeah.
That makes a massive difference.
Now,
And how much does he weigh?
I don't know.
Dude, I have pictures. I have like video of my back and like I look ridiculous in this cinematic lighting.
Mhm.
We just did like a quick little test shoot for this thing
Yeah,
and it looks ridiculous. I'm like, I'm not that big.
yeah.
I know I'm not.
Yeah.
So look, if you're asking how do I know?
Like, how would you gauge?
How would I know?
Yes.
Like, man, we've discussed this so much in like between weightlifting coaches. The one thing I would know about is if we laid out all the stats, because it is a numbers game.
Yeah.
So we're lucky enough to know what numbers kind of cross that threshold and the likelihood of androgen use.
So we're talking specifically within the realm of like weightlifting.
Yes.
So that's
But in
okay.
bodybuilding, how the fuck would anyone know? I mean, there are the hints. There are, the thinness of the skin, the discoloration. Sometimes they have acne, sometimes, but it's so ridiculously varied. I think what we see now is that there's people coming out and being like, yeah, I use steroids. I do TRT, I do this, I do that. And that puts a lot more pressure on supposed fake natties. The discussion has changed a lot. Like all these different things have changed a lot, and especially since you've gotten into to this world. Were you the first person to like openly talk about steroids? Like on, I think I remember the Alan Thrall video from a long time ago, but maybe even before that.
Yeah.
And I just remember the internet going ablaze, being like, "This is so fucking cool." There's finally somebody. Finally.
Yeah, I think
That's why Derek is who he is.
Right. I think in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I mean,
Yeah, you said it in
I said it like forever ago. So I even think that movie, I don't think anybody up until that point, from what I can recall, like there has been players, there's been some people that have like said some shit after the fact, like Lyle Alzado talked about it and like talked about it in a negative way. Arnold did say like, oh, I use them like when I compete type of thing. He alluded to it. But yeah, there really wasn't anything real definitive. But also for me, I was not like a celebrity. Like I didn't have everything to lose. Like you said with The Rock, It's like that is so damaged. That would be so damaging.
Yeah, there's no point
to anybody
Absolutely
and everyone around him.
Why would you want people discussing it anyways? People aren't even thinking along those lines. No one gives a shit.
Only a handful of people in the
in our
lifting
world.
community. Yeah, that's it.
Which I love you guys. What
yeah.
Mark said about you earlier is not true.
But it's a small community.
It is. It is very small, and I talk about that a lot. I did a video on the liver. This is it. Like, look at like my back.
Trapped
Ridiculous. That's
Sure.
not how it looks. You know. So
You were going to say something about the Liver
yeah,
King.
so-
sound
so-
like
So actually, I think the first video I made about Liver King was again to follow up with your experience with him, and it was really, is what we're doing helping anything?
right.
Is the natty or not call out? Does it confer any benefit to the world that we're in? Because we see people succeed regardless. I think what's more important is open discussion about androgens. So I'm not entirely sure that the natty or not callouts are good or bad, but I think the more that we just discuss it and its use, and there's hormone therapy, and it's much more widely attainable and understandable, we can begin to say, I want to be natural, or I want to try this.
Mm-hmm.
There's risk. Obviously, we all know this now. We don't have just idiots just peddling bullshit information because they're the only ones who are willing to speak. They're only crazy enough to speak. We have people with actual information. Like, Derek changed the fucking game. And he took, you kind of were the first to just be like, hey, fuck it. I'm going to tell the truth. And Derek went, okay, well, let me explain these things to people, because why don't we talk about it? There's really no point in not talking about it. The only reason people wouldn't is because they feel like it might damage their careers, or the idea that they work hard, and so on and so forth. So that video of the Liver King is what I brought up. And I think like that's an important discussion, right? And I felt when you guys had Mike on and he was kind of going in circles and saying all these different things, like I really wanted to drive home like the importance of just like opening it up to everyone and just being truthful around these things. No matter what, we'll never be able to prove somebody is on or off drugs or whatever the excuse is, even at the Olympic level, even in sports that are tested. And this is, you talked about the difference between Russians or typically good countries versus the US. And this is something that we face a lot. And I actually have a reasonable kind of explanation of that if you care to hear it.
Go for it.
Before we skip to this, though,
Yeah.
because again,
because I feel like I ignored that. That's why I was.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
well, okay, so let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Russians.
Not just the Russians, but
Yeah. Well, we'll know what we're getting
Yeah.
to. The thing is like it is important to talk about androgens and all of this. But the thing is that within the lifting community, anybody that looks quite impressive there's a video that's then made about them. And then all the community is like, oh, this person's on drugs. The lifting community, it's interesting because I don't think we understand the amount of genetic diversity that, number one, there is throughout the world, and the types of people that are in different places. Because Greg has made Natty or Not, like I've mentioned the one that he made about Russ Swole, which he made initially, and then he came back and made a video later about, actually, because in the video where you said Russ Swole was on drugs, Greg's like, there's 99.99% he's on something. Right? And his audience, whatever. And then he realized this is actually a powerlifter who gets drug tested all the time. And then he came back and he went behind and he's like, okay, he's that 1%, that 1%. And he's made videos where he's made those types of mistakes before. But the thing is he will take any physique that seems a bit too impressive, and then he'll purport that physique as being definitely not natural, definitely genetically gifted, and definitely on drugs.
Right.
And everybody will pile on behind that. Whereas that is very dangerous.
Yeah.
That is if somebody, and I get it, because there have been so many people that, like, I think Cali Muscle came out later and said he was on stuff, but I don't think anyone was surprised. But before, he was saying he was natural. And there are people that are doing that, and that is fucked up. But the thing
But
is,
there's a difference between calling it like things like that and what Greg was doing was like anyone that is even good looking, he's going to be like, he's natural. He's not natural. He's genetically gifted. There's a difference between the two.
yeah, and again, it's like the physiques, the people that are typically chosen within this are number one people that have great followings because it's going to get clicks. But these are also people that's like, well, they don't look like they're crazy roided out, but I'm just going to call them out because, well, they look like they could be. So let's say that they're probably on something,
odds are.
and everyone's going to, because of the culture we've created with this natty or not thing, everyone's just going to say, of course, that's a fake natty, right? And we were talking about this on the podcast prior. Man, look at the NFL. If anybody chose to just come into the lifting community from the NFL, they'd be fucking huge. They blow records out of the water. And it's just it's very odd how we can take this speculation, and one of the things you mentioned, we're looking for truth. Well, this speculation is purported as truth. People take those videos and they're like, this is fact. This is the truth. Greg's spitting it as it is. He's being truthful with me, and he uses those words during his videos. I've been very keen on how he words things. Mm-hmm. I just want to be honest with you guys. I just want you guys to know the truth. Where it's breeding this thing where it's like, oh yeah, Greg's the guy who's going to tell me the truth, and then this guy he's making a video on, that's a fake natty liar. It's dangerous, especially when you're not actually right. It's fucked up.
Right. So in weightlifting, the only thing we can go off of is past or failed drug tests. Mm-hmm. That's it. Everything else is all speculation, and you're going to kill yourself over the goddamn speculation. And that's what I've learned after considering and pondering this. You know how I always talk about, I kind of started this episode with saying that if I'm upset about something and I want to start barking about it, I'll actually go and do more research and find out why I'm upset. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things of two. The other one is like charlatans on the internet, but this one, doping and weightlifting is one of those things, and it always ends up at the same place. We can only rely on WADA and USADA and other drug testing, and so the main place where there's still disparity, so all things considered, is that the national level testing is incredibly varied from country to country, and that is the biggest goddamn issue by far. Mm-hmm. So the likelihood that China would pop one of their own within their own country is insane. They would never in a million years do that in the sport of weightlifting. In probably any other Olympic sport. Could you imagine China being like, sorry, we can't send our best. He got popped at a local competition.
Yeah.
Or the Chinese, I don't even know, whatever
do we all
anti-doping.
Do we all just regulate ourselves? Is that kind of how it works? Like in the US, is it a U.S. governed body that does the testing, and in China, is it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it should be, right? There are some bylaws in place that the only way that you can compete in the Olympics is if you had a certain number of tests done, and they had to be split up at certain times. And I think some of those times you don't even have to post a total; you just have to weigh in, and it counts, which is fucking crazy. But that is one of the ways where you make sure, like, that in each year of the quad, you have to compete a certain amount of times, and at every one of those you have to be tested. But if we're looking at USADA, once you get good enough, and this is all for weightlifting specific, this is my world of weightlifting. I know the people at the top directly. I see them all the time. I know, like, often when they get tested, like, they tell me, and so this doesn't have to do with every other sport, because a lot of people hear this and they go, oh, here's an American bitching about, other countries. It's such like, high, like right. America's high and mighty. If only we were allowed to take drugs, we'd be better at weightlifting. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I promise you. Once you get selected to be in a testing pool, USADA, you sign up a slot, and USADA will come at any point, 365 days a year, and they will knock on your door and collect a sample. Not only that, you're highly, highly likely to be tested at every national event that you go to, which means you have to. right? Because in order to qualify for Pan Ams, for Worlds, for the Olympics, you have to compete at these places. USADA does not give a flying fuck about any athlete. They want to get them in trouble. They want to pop them. Okay, so there is no corruption there involved as far as weightlifters being able to get away with doping through USADA. USADA wants to catch you. Okay. There's also no help from the American government governing the NGB of Olympic weightlifting. So USAW, there's zero help from them to try and get people to get away with doping. The likelihood that that is happening in other countries is extremely high. And in fact, if we look historically at some of these countries, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan are the two that I can think of predominantly. If you could you pull up a picture of Team Astana weightlifting team?
I love how you know this shit, man.
They'd be yoked out of their fucking minds.
So Team Astana, this is I don't know if Astana is a place in Kazakhstan or it was a company or something that's I don't know. But this was the Kazakh team that was kicking ass. Ilya Ilyin, debatably one of the goats of the sport. These guys right here. So every single one of them pissed hot. Every single one of them at an international competition. Every single one of them served bans.
Damn.
All of them. Okay. So off the top of my head, in the last 10 to 20 to 30 years, there's only been one American athlete at an international competition to be popped. Okay. That does not mean we can also go to USAW, not USAW, USADA, and you can look up all the sanctions in weightlifting. I do it all the time. And you will find people who've been popped in weightlifting, but the ones at the top they're just not getting popped. Maybe they're getting away with it. Maybe they're doing test suspension. Maybe they're doing things that I don't know. But that seems to be the issue. Somebody said this. His name's Nat Arem. He's the owner of Hook Grip. Do you guys know Hook Grip?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said it is a net zero. It's not a net negative for these people. So getting popped doesn't really damage their country or their team. Now it kind of does, but in the past it never did. Okay, so this lifter can't lift anymore. Pull one right up next. Doesn't make any difference. We started to sanction countries. So, and you know, the lack of competitors at the Olympics. So like a country like Romania was only allowed to send one lifter, whereas America had 8 total. So that's the disparity I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say that if we did steroid, like it would be very interesting to see. There's a famous American lifter, Ian Wilson, and this is all public knowledge. I mean, he was popped. So that's actually the second one that I'm thinking of. He was popped, but he was a notorious 170 kilo snatcher at best. 170, maybe a little bit heavier. And then anywhere from 200 to 210. 210, I think, would be his best ever. After he was popped, he posted on Instagram some of the lifts that he had hit in training: 187 snatch and a 227 clean and jerk. So I don't know what 187 is, but 227 is 500 pounds. He always wanted to do that. That is a 10% jump in both lifts after lifting in the sport for 12 straight years. These are the sort of things that steroids can do. You know, take a big leap like that.
What about Dmitry Klokov? Did we see a similar jump in him when he stopped competing? Or was he about the same strength?
So the issue with competing is cutting for those guys. So yeah, he hit some fucking crazy lifts.
Right.
But mainly in like odd types of things. Like he did this pause
500 pretty easy and stuff like that.
He did this pause snatch at 200 kilos, pause at the fucking knee snatch at 200 kilos. He did it it is one of the most famous training lifts ever. In that sense, he probably weighed like 115 kilos there, and his weight class that he competed at was 105. So in that sense, like it took off a little bit, but the intensity at which he trained when he was competing was much higher. I mean, you cannot repeat that.
I got to see him lift one time, and he was just doing some demo stuff before like a seminar. And he just did this lift, and my friend comes over to me. He goes, "I think that's the most weight ever lifted in the United States."
No,
he's
honestly,
like, honestly, I think it might be ever most weight. Yeah, And I was like, what the fuck?
So yeah,
He's just messing around. He was having a good time.
So like to answer your question, I don't think it jumped up too much because he kind of always had.
He was already on shit.
He was already on shit. But what's more important than that? What's more important than that is there is no way he could replicate the amount that he worked going up to the Olympics.
Right.
There is no way. And I would honestly say that he probably did way less drugs, but he would be a better athlete just because he's fucking grinding for that thing.
I got to show you an article. I got a chance to interview him for Power Magazine, and it was just amazing the way that he talked about training.
Yeah, I love the guy. Like,
He
I
said
really
he would
do.
like go to the gym, and then he would like try to do something, and every once in a while his dad or the coach or whoever it was would tell him like no, and then he would get like massage work, and then he'd go back to the bar. Sometimes it was there. If it wasn't there, he'd split, and then he'd come back, just keep going. And sometimes these guys are working out 2-3 times a day.
Yeah,
He's an animal.
So, look, it's really hard, and the hardest thing for me is just seeing comments just go cut and dry, black and white. Everyone's on gear or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different factors. The tough thing is at the elite level in American weightlifting, it's really highly unlikely to get away with it. It really, really is. I promise you guys out there. I promise you, it is very difficult. I just noticed this recently, and I just go, oh, fucking God, of course, right? There's an American weightlifter. He's actually, I think he's Sacramento-based. He's a junior, and he went to Junior Worlds. Snatches 145, clean and jerks right around 190. Those are fantastic for like a junior snatching 145. That's 325 pounds or 320 pounds. Clean and jerking over 420 pounds as a 19-year-old. That's tremendous, right? He goes to compete at Junior Worlds. The winner of the snatch snatched 190 kilos. Okay, the winner, 19-year-old kid. He's Ukrainian, snatched 190. Now, just to put this in perspective, that is pretty much where Klokov, that's near Klokov's best lift ever in competition. Okay, so
At 19.
at 19. So that is a situation where I go, either this kid is got like just I don't know how else I could explain this, or like he's just on drugs, because we know that Dmitry Klokov was on drugs his entire career. Okay, and he also got retroactively popped. I made a video about that kind of actually got a ton of views. He was retroactively tested, which is fucking hilarious. We could talk about that as well. They take B samples out of the freezer and they use new equipment, and they can pull out certain things. So anyways, Dmitry Klokov over his entire career, 190 to 195 kilo snatch is fucking good. Okay. That's really, really good for him. Like, he will medal likely because his jerk is good as well. Okay. Now we have a 19-year-old and we're cleaning up the sport, and it's 2020 or 2021 when this happened. 19-year-old snatching what Dmitry Klokov did.
And this was
Out
in
of the
competition,
Ukraine.
right?
Yes.
Was he drug tested or no?
I mean, who knows? You
Yeah.
know, it's like I supposedly Ilya Ilyin in Almaty. So Almaty, Kazakhstan. This lift, by the way, we need to pull this one up. Ilya Ilyin, I don't know what worlds it is, but it's in just Ilya Ilyin in Almaty, and it's like a side angle view, and you can see the crowd. It's his home crowd. Okay, and this clean and jerk is to win the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And he hits this, and the crowd stands up. It's like, rah, like thousands of people cheering on for the sport. It's an iconic lift. He walks off, and WADA does not fucking touch this guy. They're like, what? I'm gonna just walk away the other way. Like, they're not gonna test him? Are you kidding me? They're not gonna fucking test the winner in his home crowd on the final lift, on the most epic lift of the entire worlds that year.
How would I spell his name? Sorry.
Ilya, Ilya, Ilyin. And then Almaty Worlds, and it's a side angle video. But that's sort of the thing like that you can expect from WADA, right? USADA, dude, I've seen them. They nab you. They literally just wait. So like the session is finishing, and they just see like they just stand there like this with their clipboard, and they're just waiting for you, you know. And then the moment that the competition is over, they're glued to you, and they walk with you, and they walk with you everywhere you go. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna go to the bathroom, collect your sample, blood sample, piss sample, we don't fucking mess with that at all.
Yeah.
So who knows if this kid was tested, but high likelihood that he's on steroids. That's where we have an elite athlete in America going against somebody who's definitely on drugs, and that's where we see, well, this is not.
I'm not sure. If
not
that's-
this one.
Okay.
There's another one, but this is the lift.
Oh, okay.
So
Everyone's
Oh yeah,
got
right
notes.
there. To the top right, 2014 Almaty. Oh no.
no, top right.
Right there.
There we go. Top right. That one.
This
yes.
top right.
Look at the crowd.
Nice.
This is. Oh wait, this is his snatch. They show his clean and jerk.
Hopefully.
What about someone like Alexiev? You know, some of these lifters from like a long time ago. Were they?
Alexiev is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think
They probably.
it
were
wasn't
on
even
shit.
illegal to do Diana
Right,
ball back
right.
at that. Back then.
Right. Yeah, a little Diana ball. You know, no big deal.
I'm actually curious about this.
Okay,
man.
watch this. Watch this right here, guys. Look at the crowd on this one. If we could pump in audio, that'd be crazy. But look at this.
Nice.
God damn.
That's probably my favorite competition lift of all time. Now this dude walks off stage. Wada does not fucking touch this guy. Okay, you know. So that's general. That's the general disparity. I'm sure I'm gonna get murdered in comments. But yeah,
You know, kind of. So this 19-year-old kid, right? Looking at the numbers, okay, yeah, high likelihood he's on drugs. But I think about like the 15-year-old kid that we showed at this podcast, right?
Right.
And there have been so many lifters that are like 15, 16, whatever, doing stuff with powerlifting in terms of squatting and deadlifting immense amounts of weight. Number one, because like the sport is becoming more powerful and kids are able to start much younger. But then there's the visibility aspect where you can just post this online and people can see what some of these people are doing. So I really do wonder because like, LeBron James is another example. When he was young, when he was
14,
15,
he should have been in the league when he was 14.
dog, he could have been playing in the leagues and truly when
sure.
he was 16.
For sure.
We look at size and muscle different from athleticism, but there are and there have been just young people doing things at a much higher level than adults in sports.
The craziest youth sport that you wouldn't think is swimming. Now you would think that gymnastics, like for women on the women's side, right? So gymnastics is the one where you're like, okay, well, we have to put an age limit to how young we use. Have you seen that? And China fakes like their birth certificates.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
So actually though, there are a couple swimmers right now who are the best in the world and they're like 14, 15, 16 years old.
that was
on
like
the women's side.
Ledecky was like that. She just
Oh, yeah.
smashed everybody.
Oh yeah. And I think that's the thing too. It's like, just like looking at someone's physique is a slippery slope, looking at their numbers is a slippery slope as well. I hope that's kind of what you were saying, but
Yeah, because like again, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, because you have these visual metrics potentially, and then you have these numbers you look at, but you can assume, but that truly might not be the case, and that's where it's really fucking iffy. You know?
yeah, this is, dude, like I'm telling you, this is why podcasting as a form is so important to me, because when I talk about these things, like I have kind of this issue where like I can't even agree with the thing that I said like 5 minutes ago because I want to argue against the fucking other side so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think people can end up hating that a lot in politics, a lot in the philosophies and the way that you live your life. And I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but it does make for some interesting content. It's
What
like,
about just letting it go? Just like in terms of drug use, just like fuck it.
no, that's so ultimately, do you know who Max Ada is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Max is someone I would consider like my first mentor ever. And
733 squat at 220 pounds in a powerlifting meet. Fucking badass.
yeah. And he and I were just kind of like, look, this is how it works in this sport. We can get better. So you look at somebody, if they get like this kid, he got the shit beaten out of him by somebody who was likely on drugs, right? He snatched his clean and jerk. the guy on drugs. If I asked this kid, hey, could you have had a better meat? He would have been like, yeah. Okay, well, let's do that. It's all you can do. And if WADA doesn't do a better job, fuck them. Because you're not doing what you're saying you're doing. You know what I mean? Because USADA kind of is. At least in weightlifting, guys.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of comments being like, oh, he's saying USADA is so not corrupt when there's UFC this and whatever. It's like, no. Like, I know in weightlifting what they do. And it's hard as shit to get away with anything.
Yeah.
You don't want to fuck with USADA. They'll come at you really hard. And another thing, too, is if you do it internationally, you can do time now. You know about this, the Rodchenkov Act. Have you heard about this?
No.
So the Rodchenkov Act was an act started because of Grigory Rodchenkov, everyone knows, from Icarus. So Icarus.
Documentary, yeah.
And by the way, the best documentaries are the ones where people set out to make a documentary and then something fucking happens. And they make a totally different one. Queen of Versailles is another example. Have you seen that one?
Nope.
So Queen of Versailles, I think it's is the wife of a massive real estate broker.
Oh, I
and they were building the largest home in American history. Okay. And right in the middle of building it, the real estate collapse happens in 2008. Then this guy's got his camera and he's filming it. It's like the whole thing. She's eating McDonald's in a fur coat in a house that's like the biggest house ever.
Which is your problem,
right? But it's a great thing. So if we look at Icarus, this guy was like, well, I want to see what the advantages of taking drugs are. So I'm going to do it. So he took drugs, he competed in amateur cycling, and he employed Grigory Rodchenkov. Not only did he could have employed someone else, but he employed the foremost person in RUSADA, the Russian Anti-Doping Association. The person who's supposed to be working for RUSADA was actually providing the guidelines and stipulations for the Russian team to be able to pass drug tests. And what Icarus uncovered a lot was, after that documentary, people started looking more into Russia, and then they suffered some bans. I still think they are not allowed to compete at the Olympics, or last time they were, it was called the Russian Federation or something like that.
I think so.
And so the Rodchenkov Act is something that came from this, and it was passed in Congress. And the thing is, the precedent is very loose because like not many people have broken it. But the idea is if you I could be wrong about this. You might have to look this up, just some sort of like overarching thing, but you can get criminal charges now for testing positive or at international competition. And I think the first charges were from a track coach, not a track coach, a doctor or a massage therapist for 2 track and field athletes who ended up getting popped. They were able to subpoena the doctor, and they actually looked in the texts, and they mentioned androgen use, and he was the one providing it to them.
Yeah.
In all those cases, and I believe it's a fine, potential jail time for this man. And it's the first Grigory Rodchenkov Act thing. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the steroid thing a little bit, is one thing that's also kind of interesting is within lifting and gaining muscle, people have different abilities, right? People have different abilities on the higher end of muscle that they'll be able to gain, natural or not. And one thing that you see is people will be like, okay, well, this person, Arnold, was this size and this person was this size. And they'll reference individuals who clearly did use androgens. And that will be a reason why other individuals that maybe have been that size or have gotten there cannot be natural.
Right. Yeah. That's the same thing with numbers and
exactly. And so that's I was thinking the same thing with numbers, because people will reference these lifters who have lifted and are clearly on, but look at this lifter doing that naturally.
So that's
There's
the thing.
No way.
But would you not say that the likelihood is low? Right.
Likelihood that they're low is that their natural is low.
Yes.
Man.
Right. Wouldn't you say a random kid out of Ukraine? Which, by the way, another very interesting thing, WADA announced that they would not be testing Ukraine because of the war for certain,
Yeah.
So they were much more lenient during those times, but that's that's another branch of conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he just happens to be Ukrainian.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say the likelihood is low that he's natural?
If I could just interject,
Yep.
and I could be way off, but like I just searched, junior weight lifting, 190 clean and jerk, and like I got.
Oh no, not clean and jerk.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Snatch.
Snatch. my
Very
bad.
important to discern the two.
Yeah, okay, because I
there's
was like,
quite a few.
so
There's
what I was
qu-
gonna say was like, well, if there was one, then yeah, I'm like, but I'm coming up with a bunch of answers.
No.
But okay, gotcha.
The,
my bad.
the reason I brought it up was because the junior lifter from America was clean and jerking 190, and this kid was snatching 190, same session.
Okay.
And 190 was what Klokov, those guys
Yeah.
in that era were doing.
Nuts.
Yeah, and I think you brought up Vasily Alexiev, and I love thinking about Vasily Alexiev because my grandpa didn't know anything about weightlifting, and this was back when weightlifting was spectacle, and it was converging on technical, and Alexiev was like the GOAT at the time, and so my grandpa knew about Alexiev. He was on Sports Illustrated, and they would watch what was called the Wide World of Sports, ABC Wide World of Sports. They had some really cool stuff. I love watching that on YouTube. Sometimes I do reaction videos. But Alexiev and those guys, I don't know what the drug was that they were using, but it was likely Dianabol just because it was simple. It's just an oral. And at that time, it became really popular. I'm not, or
Is there
maybe
any truth to him lifting weights in water, or is this like some of these mythical things about him? You ever heard?
I
of
love that stuff. Though.
Yeah, so do I.
I fucking
Yeah, he-
love the lore.
Yeah, he used to take a barbell and just throw it like a couple hundred times over his
Sure.
head, backwards or whatever in
Yeah.
the field. You're like,
Dude,
that's true.
I can't remember the video I made, but I talked
There is
about
a picture of him lifting in the water, but like,
Oh,
like that's
yeah.
just like a one-off thing, or did he actually practice that?
Pakistani stone lifting. Have you guys heard of this shit?
No.
Oh my God, pull this shit up. It is fucking awesome. These guys, so there's one handle on the boulder, just one, it's a sphere.
Yeah.
There's one handle, and we're looking at 170 kilos. and
Holy
they
shit.
they put it, and they put it in their lap. And when people lap things, like they lap it ass to grass. And then
What was it called?
Pakistani stone lifting.
Stone lifting. My bad.
And they basically clean, and then they catch with one arm underneath and the other on.
No way.
Yeah, and they
What
hit
the
their asses basically to the ground. This is it. How much weight on this one?
Doesn't.
Okay.
Say. Let's see. Here.
So I made a video about this,
This
right?
is fucking
And
great.
This is fucking, dude, this shit blew me away. And I made a video about this, and there was a couple there were guys doing this. So he laps it ass to
Oh my
grass.
God.
What the f-
This one has two. He's going to catch with one hand underneath.
No
yeah.
way.
But that's not, some of these guys get so low and then they get back down. Oh, he's going to do 2 reps.
Oh,
Maybe he's
he's
warming up.
breaking his fucking wrist and his shoulder. Oh my God.
Look at that mobility, though.
That's some
So
David Weck shit right there.
there's one of these guys that picks up a fucking motorcycle
What?
and he gets it overhead in front of these kids. And I was like, dude, those kids are never going to fucking forget that moment. They're going to tell people that motorcycle weighed thousands of pounds. That's the shit. This is the shit that I love. It's like bunch of people, these are farmers, and this is a sport that's like kind of dying, and it's traditional, and it's about lore. And like you were saying about Alexiev lifting shit in water, like I am so attracted to that. I also made another video about the Basque stone lifters. So Basque is part of, it's a country that actually, or not a country. It's like political or whatever, but it's a region, part of Spain, part of France. And actually the Basque language is not Romance, like not a Romance language. So it's got to sound kind of pretty crazy, right? We know like Italian, Spanish, French, like they have this Romance base to it. This doesn't, but there's stone lifters. They call them like the Levantadores. And there's part of it that's so cool. It's like different regions of this Basque place, Basque territory are better at certain things. Like there's like axemen, and then there's guys who are good at carrying stone, and different people in the different regions are good at different events, and then they all come together and they do these events. and they lift these like crazy stones, but the lore, we're talking like thousands of years of this shit. It like charges me up, man. It really fires me up. I almost cry in one of the videos that I made because these guys are just like, I fucking love it so much. I'm a school teacher, by the way, you know, and I'll never not do this.
How long have you been into like strength history in different places? Like, has this always been an interest of yours, or did you get into it after, I don't know, you started lifting or something?
I'd say, this is it, man. God damn it. I love this shit.
Looks painful.
Yeah. Doesn't all of the strong, like coming from a barbell sport, you're like, fuck strongman. You're making it harder for me to pick up more weight. I want to make it easier for me to pick up more weight.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But there's something about this, like these dudes. And the first thing I say in this video is like, these guys aren't on fucking drugs. They're not on drugs. They don't fucking, it's about it for them. It's like about respect for their culture. It's just, I don't know. They talk about their families in it and how much it means to them. They talk about their jobs. It's just, there was this feeling that I got, and I swear to God, I was like wiping off tears.
Yeah.
Because it was so, so meaningful. And to answer your question about the history of strength, and I'm not so sure, like it was probably pretty recently. Like I started making these videos this summer about these like historical strength stuff, but it really actually came from my grandpa who liked Alexiev, and then there was another one, Paul Anderson. You know Paul Anderson?
Absolutely.
Of course, right? That was a guy that my grandpa knew of. If my grandpa knows about you, you're fucking important in weightlifting, because no one knows anything about weightlifting. No one knows anything about powerlifting or strength training. And if my grandpa knew about you, like that means that you were something. You were a magician. We know about Eugene Sandow. We know about these legends. And I think that is so cool. When you take a sport and you refine it and you make it super dry and you want it to be in the Olympics and you get children doing it and there's all these rules and all this bullshit, it doesn't become a spectacle anymore. There's no more lore. There's no more like fantasy around it. And that's where it can start to lose its magic. Judo is one of those sports that's kind of happening in. There's no more takedowns with the legs. I've heard from judoka, like a lot of complaints about the way that they've kind of taken the battle out of it and all of these things, but it ends up happening. You dry up the sport because you want to make it specialized more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah, even the UFC, the early UFC, was like, these are guys that just want to fight each other, and they didn't have a skill. Like, there's something cool about that.
Yes.
Like, it'd be cool to see another league start up, and the rules are that you're not allowed to have any training, and you got to be fucking out of shape, and you got to be fat. You get 5 minutes rest in between rounds, and each round's only a minute long.
Yeah, and
drink beer in between. Make it nuts.
I think the UFC though is probably
the UFC is amazing.
I think it is. You're right. It absolutely
that early
changed.
stage was different, right?
Yes,
it's just different.
Yes, but I think the UFC is the best sport at going into the drier phase of it and still being a good spectacle.
Right.
It's we used to, the UFC and MMA used to just be like, all right, let's put this fucking massive guy versus small one. Like, let's have fun. Let's make a spectacle, like a circus
No
show.
weight class.
Yeah, no weight class. Or we would put the jiu-jitsu player versus the whatever. And that was really, really cool.
4 fights in one night.
But it's still pretty fucking cool, right?
It's still amazing.
Right? But some sports, they become less and less cool the farther you get from the meaning of them. I talked about sumo in one of my videos, sorry. I talked about sumo and the argument against it and for it. We always find the silly argument of someone being like, oh, it's cheating. Or like, it doesn't fucking count, But it's important to know that that side still exists, right? The side where it's like, what are we really trying to accomplish here? What was the point of powerlifting in the first place? Somebody came up with a great example of like 0 to 60 in cars becoming the one thing that we care about, but that actually doesn't point out which one is the better car. It's the same thing in powerlifting. Oh, so you did a 700-pound deadlift, but your range of motion was like literally 4 inches.
Yeah.
Which is the video that I end up utilizing, right? What are we getting at here? But at the same time, you look at Jamal Browner and what he just did. you have to fucking respect
Which thing did he just do? Because he's done
1100?
so many. It was an 1100?
that. 1100. He did 500 kilos.
Jeez. Yeah, we saw that.
500 kilos fucking randomly, by the way.
Yeah.
It was just a random day.
Yeah.
How dare you? You know, at that body weight. And people are going to be like, well, I have this thing. It's like, he pulled sumo. You know, no, there's ebbs and flows to these arguments. But
You got a deadlift bar and straps.
deadlift bar, straps, sumo, this is it. Fucking crazy, dude.
This guy not only is lifting these kind of weights in the deadlift, he's also an amazing, accomplished power lifter as well. Squats, bench, I mean, everything.
I
He's
think
a specimen.
Yeah.
Bro, that is fucking insane.
Yeah. It's super weird where, like, you know, we'll see these amazing feats of strength, or we'll see people doing really cool, just any really cool feat. And within this community, it's just almost an immediate thing to try to discount what was just done. Like, I don't know if he was using straps there, but if he was, there's going to be a comment of, oh, he uses straps. Or that 15-year-old kid, he was using straps.
It wasn't in competition.
It wasn't like, why can't we just be like, that was dope? And maybe if you're someone who wants to go towards that, how can you figure out maybe aspects of what he does to emulate? To try, like, what is this weird? What is that shit?
Yeah, even if you're jealous, even if you don't like him, even if you hate him, can you like think for a second that there's probably a lot of good information that person can have to help you? And if you think they're lying or cheating, or you think it's bullshit, just fucking watch somebody else.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit out there that you could consume elsewhere. Something I was thinking is, you know, don't let the detractors co-opt the argument. So just because someone is a blockhead enough to take the argument being like, oh, it was sumo, that's stupid. Don't let them say that is the argument against sumo pulling, because they might not be a good representative for that argument. Right? I think the argument
saying it's dumb isn't a good explanation.
right. And now I don't want to be that person, so sumo might be okay. Well, no, that there's still something there in saying that, like, it's kind of less of the point of finding out who is strongest. We are gamifying this movement that we've determined is what determines people's strength, but we've gamified it so much so that it doesn't utilize as much strength or the whatever it may be, functionality of it. I think it's important to think along those lines. Now, the blockhead that said it's sumo, don't fucking, you know, you just don't let him or her ruin that potential argument. And I think if we look back at the Mike O'Hearn thing, the people that will that won't even attempt to get into the gym, that will quit because they know they can't look like that, those people should not ruin the potential argument that natty or nots are valuable, potentially. Right? Because that is bullshit. If somebody looks and they find out that someone's on drugs and they decide, I don't want to do that because that's not realistic, because I don't want to be on drugs, that person should not steal the argument that, you know, not being on drugs is, being on drugs and lying about it is damaging. And that was really, I guess, the point of the video that I was making, right? Is that we, all three of us, will look online and we will see comments and be like, God damn it, you know? Like, is that the side? Is that what people think? When in reality, that's just what that one person thinks. It's not a large subset of people, because there were a lot of comments, people being like, it helps me to know if someone's on drugs or it doesn't, but either way, I'm going to the fucking gym. No one's going to stop me from that.
Yeah.
Power Project family, how's it going? So no matter what diet you're on or no matter what supplements you take, it's necessary as you get older to know what's going on under the hood. That's why I've partnered with Merrick Health. They're the premium telehealth clinic owned by Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And we have a panel that will allow you to get all of your labs done and checked in a super easy fashion. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yeah, you guys got to head over to merrickhealth.com/powerproject. That's MAREK health.com/powerproject. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $101 off of this comprehensive panel. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
And if your average person looks at some of these things that we're talking about, they just have no idea how they even benefit them. And they would probably say something negative. Like, what does that prove? What does that do? Why would someone do that?
Yeah.
Like they have zero reference point of somebody deadlifting 700 pounds and having veins coming out of their arms and stuff.
Right.
They just think it's like, it's too extreme for them to even like.
Yes. You don't even know the fucking world of what it takes to pull 700, my friend.
Yeah.
Don't even think that you would ever begin to understand it. I'm sure that you get that feeling a lot looking at, knowing how strong you were and the amount of not just actual physical work, but the amount of mind space that powerlifting took in your fucking brain. Did you find it was tough to sleep because you were like lifting in your brain while you're sleeping?
I literally was lifting, in my sleep. Yeah, I'd wake up like benching or doing like a movement almost. I mean, it was weird. But yeah, it was on my mind all the time.
Yeah.
This is what we were talking about as far as I think that clip where I said people are just going to quit, right, because they hear that, okay, this person's on drugs. And going back to what you mentioned about how individuals, when they start their journey, shouldn't necessarily be setting expectations.
Right.
They should be, what did you say? They shouldn't be setting expectations. They should
Standards.
be standards.
Yes.
And that's the thing I wonder, because we were talking outside of this about Jordan, and we'll come back to that. It was a podcast before, but I don't know. When I look at it, for example, when I started jiu-jitsu, I wasn't a former grappler. All I did was I played soccer for 16 years and I lifted. But when I started jiu-jitsu, my goal and my expectation initially was we're going to hit the mats 4 or 5 days a week. 2 or 3 weeks in, I realized I cannot hit the mats 4 days a week. I'm going to try to hit the mats 2 days a week. And that was my expectation of myself, to just do that and then over time build up the ability to go more. Now I can do jiu-jitsu 4 to 5 days a week and I can lift almost every single day. But I did have an expectation for myself at the beginning, and I course corrected. I think we talked about course correcting, right? Yeah. So as you start the lifting thing, when you're new, you're going to find you may want to go to the gym 5 days a week. And you could if you deal with your intensity well. But you'll find that if you go too often, you're not going to recover well. So you'll course correct.
Yes.
Right? So what I was kind of getting at there was, if someone sees somebody's strength levels or they see a physique that somebody has been able to build, it's never safe to be like, I want to look like that person, because we're all different.
Right.
You could live for 20 years.
That's
You'll never.
the Lou video, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You might have been playing basketball all your life, but you'll never be able to jump like Jordan or whatever. But if you look at something as like, I want something. I want something there. That's a goal. Like, how can I get aspects of that? Or how could I maybe even achieve that? And as you head towards that direction, you'll find 5 years into lifting, 8 years into lifting, you'll be like, okay, this is more so what I want to head towards. But for a lot of lifters, by looking at certain people and thinking that takes steroids,
Right.
if to achieve that, it would take steroids. My thing is, it already sets up this thing in your head where you're like, that's cool, but I did want that, but I know now that takes steroids. And if I want that, I'm going to have to hop on, right? That is wonky. Because again, I remember when I started lifting.
Yeah.
I remember the goals I had for myself, and they were I did want to get jacked. I did want to get big, but I'm lucky that in my mind, there wasn't this idea that maybe certain physiques I looked up to, maybe they were on shit. You know what I mean? Because early on, I would have thought that I needed to get on drugs to be able to achieve that type of look, and I didn't.
So I get more of what you're saying here. I get it a lot. I can give you my experience in weightlifting. I never had a single goal of a weight that I ever wanted to lift. And maybe I just had the advantage because I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I had the advantage that improvement is just too fun. It's just too fun doing this. I don't know why. I have too much fun. I was able to see people doing things and I knew they were on steroids, and it never, I remember someone saying, I want to snatch 275 pounds, 125. It's a great number to snatch because it's 2 reds in a clip, or the 2 reds in we have the 2.5 kilo clip. And I just remember being like, I don't care. I don't give a shit if I snatch that ever in my life. I mean, I want to get better, but right now I got to snatch, if I'm snatching 100, I got to snatch 101. And I'm lucky in that. So it's hard for me to have the perspective of somebody that might not have that. And what I want to know from you is, what does that look like? Like somebody who just thinks like, do they not go? So let's say they do still go to the gym. Do you think they don't train as hard? Right? Because it's like, I think that the likelihood that somebody sees someone on gear and says, I don't want to lift is low.
Yeah, so let me kind of correct that.
But maybe in the future, they might not go to places that they could.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or
let me correct, because like that clip, and we talked about it in our response podcast. I don't know if you saw it.
I did.
Yeah, I mentioned like, okay, like maybe he was going a bit far saying these people aren't going to lift. But what these people will do is what you see going on TikTok fitness and what you see a lot of younger guys doing. You see a guy like Brandon Harding that chose to hop on 3 years in. Oh, he's honest. He's forward. But then you start to see all these young kids who are getting on TRT 2 or 3 years into lifting, when there's no fucking reason you need to. You're still young. You have the ability to progress. There's so much more. You have so much more of a cap. What results is you do it for a little bit. You don't get the speedy results that you'd want. But this is the thing. This game takes a long time. And it's hard to give yourself the time to get to those goals where you see a lot of people just hopping on some HRT or TRT or taking a little something to get there a little bit faster. So, hey, why not? I think I'm not saying that the natty or knots or whatever, that they're bad, okay? Because I've said they are necessary. But I do think that it does implant in some youngsters' minds that, hey, I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm doing this for 5 years. Okay. I've reached my genetic potential. Let's hop on and let's go to that next level.
So then it is Greg's, Derek's, anyone else who's prevalent, it is their fucking duty to tell those kids not to do that.
And Greg does
say it.
Yeah,
and they do, right?
Say it, yeah.
So, but yes, I now I actually like that, because I do see that shit, and it's on TikTok, and it's fucking nauseating.
Yeah.
To see a 19-year-old kid on TRT, like, that is ridiculous. You know how fun it is to fucking lift at 19 years old?
Yeah. I remember that shit. Yep.
It's the greatest shit on earth, you know? And to just think like, well, I can't be like that guy unless I'm on steroids. Now let's do them right now. Might as well, if it's going to happen at some point and I want to look like that. I completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand that point.
Yeah.
That's what gets a lot of people into lifting in the first place, is insecurity, right? It's like insecurity might drive you to take steroids or what have you. Man. The interesting thing about some of this is that aside from certain types of steroids, if you're talking about something like testosterone, to me, it's not any different than a supplement. Mm-hmm. And I understand where you could get into a weird category if young people are taking it, because they're going to be shutting down their own production when they're in the process of their body is still it's still trying to peak itself out. Like their testosterone levels are starting to get to the highest levels that they're probably ever going to be.
Right.
And then maybe by 25, they start to maybe make different decisions depending on the health of the person and so on. But it's just an interesting thing to argue about. It's an interesting thing that these drugs are even illegal. It's an interesting thing that they're even tested for in the Olympics. Like, it sometimes just makes me wonder, like, what would be the harm if they just weren't tested for?
So the biggest issue that I always bring up with that is kids. So Egypt was just banned from competing because they had a system where they were doping up 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds.
Wow.
So it will happen.
Right.
It's like that.
Yeah, kids do a lot of drugs, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the idea that
it's not safe, but just banning it like it doesn't seem like it's helping.
It's true, but this is something where we're not. This is yeah. I mean, you could make the argument that like, yeah, well, kids do fucking heroin, and they shouldn't be doing that.
What about the supplements?
You can just keep going.
Yeah.
You can keep going, but I think that you have to start thinking about things in the lesser of two evils, and that is the worst fucking scenario. And anti-doping is very fucked up. I did a video about a guy who, now this is his personal account, so it could be wrong, but the regime of this president, Thomas Ayan, was proven by an independent group, and they investigated him as like quite literally the most corrupt thing I think I've seen in sports for decades. And it's the weightlifting. He was the weightlifting president of the IWF. And there was an Iranian, and his account of what happened at the 2008 Olympics. His name's Shaheen Nasrinya, and in his class was Piros Dimas, who I'm sure you guys know. You know Piros?
No, I don't.
Very
personally.
decorated, very decorated, very famous lifter.
A lighter weight guy. Right?
Lasha Talkhadze's coach, so Lasha, the greatest lifter probably of all time at this point, his coach, Georgi Atsenidze, who is also in that weight class as well. And long story short, the Iranians were not able to pay to essentially not get tested. And because they didn't pay their way in through this system, through this corrupt system, they were basically told, Shaheen cannot put together a total in this meet. Because, and if he does, your entire team is going to be suspended, or you're going to have, So Shaheen goes up and he fakes an elbow injury. And it's actually really funny to watch. I bring it up in my video. I have video of him warming up by the way, he in his own words, he's like, I was in ridiculous shape, bro. I was in insane shape. And in the warm-up room, or not warm-up, the training halls leading up to weightlifting competitions are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the best content you'll ever see is the training hall leading up to competition. And he was crushing it. Okay. They went up to him. Probably somebody from the Greek Federation, somebody from the Georgian Federation, or wherever was like, hey, this dude's going to win. And that's bullshit if he didn't pay. So he's warming up now. This is before his session. And he kind of goes like this with his elbow. You can see it in the fucking video. It's crazy. Okay.
Do you know what the video is called on your channel?
The buying and selling of gold medals.
Okay, I need to eat.
Okay. So then he goes up on his first snatch attempt, fakes an elbow injury, and goes out. That's the corruption that we see. In sport. That's just, it's nauseating.
Yeah.
Just to throw some more conjecture out there, what does an Olympic lifting routine look like?
Watch. See the elbow? The fucking elbow, dude.
What does Olympic lifting routine look like for a really, really high level Olympic lifter, especially like younger kids? Like, is it common to work out multiple times a day? Is it common to like sprint and jump and lift? And
Kids it's games. You just play a lot of games. It's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. Most of the things you should make the kids, I think this is the injury here that he fakes. But kids mainly just focus on having fun and just being athletic, and there we go. Totally fake. And he said this himself.
Jesus.
And it went completely under wrapped. Like I'm the only person who's reported on this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally the only one.
That's insane.
Wow.
So, so kids in weightlifting, jumping, sprinting, all fun stuff.
And might train multiple times a day, things like that. Like as you get a little older, 15, stuff like that.
I would say once you get into like the probably 15, 16, you might do 2 times a day, maybe.
So my point here would be that seems pretty unnatural as well. So I mean, people are gonna take things to an extreme.
Yes.
And these kids that are in Olympic sports, let's face the facts, especially the kids that are in sports in other countries, are probably not treated so well.
Oh yeah. And
So-
it's not that they're not treated so well. It's not their choice.
Right.
They're not fucking taking these drugs. Their coach is just saying, take these pills.
Right.
It's fine. Just take it and then go train. That's it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I find it all to be really interesting. I wonder what difference it would make. Like, would there be a lot of kids that were juiced up, and would it have, a lot of detrimental effects, or are there already a ton of detrimental effects from forcing a kid, even here in the United States, to do gymnastics from the time they're 4 and fuck up their hormones and fuck up their growth.
I'm glad you brought this up because I think that
my conjecture here is like, why not have these little fuckers on some growth hormone? Because what you're doing to them might be suppressing everything so hard. Why not have them on a little bit of testosterone?
The craziest is probably track and field, or I'm sorry, cross country or long distance running, especially
bone density and all that.
Oh my God, that shit is nauseating, man. And the ass backwards coaches, in gymnastics, ballet, and long distance running, their coaches are so toxic, man. Did you guys see the Nike team, the team Nike?
No.
Coach, this woman, there was a piece, I don't know if it was Sports Illustrated, but it was a team Nike long distance running coach was like the most abusive piece of shit ever to his like all women's team. Would call them fat or like they needed to lose weight. This one woman just like didn't have her period for like four years or something.
Jesus Christ.
There's something it's called
amenorrhea.
Like the trifecta.
I know what
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Shin. They get shin fractures.
It's the triad. The
triad. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is the sort of shit that pisses me off to no fucking end. Because so those same gymnastics coaches that make their athletes throw up on the toilet or lose weight for whatever fucking reason, those are the same people watching Simone Biles fucking dominate, you know? And there are a lot of old school coaches that look at someone like Simone Biles and go, she's ruining our sport. Why? Because she's more explosive. She's better.
Yeah.
She has a body type that you don't enjoy. Fuck off. Like this is the pinnacle of sport, and she's healthier. She's healthier. So it's the same thing that we see in training. When you would want someone to gain muscle, like you could tell a woman, I don't know how many times, like you actually don't need to get on the treadmill and like eat just like no calories at all to look the way that you want. If you actually gained a lot of muscle, like approached it like a bodybuilder, you would look exactly how you want and better. And they go, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. I just said approach it like a bodybuilder, sweetheart. You're never going to look like a bodybuilder. Because there are bodybuilders who've been working for 15 years who will never look like the bodybuilder that they want to look like. It's their job and they won't look like that. But there's this, you know, there's that ass backwards mentality that we see perpetuated, especially by these coaches, that just frustrates me so goddamn much.
Yeah. You know, Mark, I do get what you're saying. I understand, like, because, for example, like there are some SARMs that help with recovery, correct? I'm not here saying SARMs are good. But what I'm saying is if it was legal for them to take certain things that will allow them to actually be a healthier athlete, right? If it were somehow, if they could rule on it and make sure that everything was safe, it could overall be beneficial. I think in my head, though, the reason why, like, again, an adult man can do whatever he wants to do. If you're 19, 20, 21, you want to do TRT, you're an adult. You can make whatever choices you want to make. And I am not judging you for it. Well, I'm kind of judging you for it. I definitely am judging you for it.
Yeah.
But I've talked about this in a podcast a long time ago, but when I was a trainer in my early 20s, I was like 21 or 22, I had this client and he was like 27 or 28. And I was doing skin caliper tests on him and we were trying to lose weight, but for some reason I could not pull his skin away and he wasn't making progress for months. I'm like, dude, you need to go to the doctor because for some reason, I don't know, this shit seems weird. He went to the doctor and he came back and he mentioned how like he did steroids and he did something when he was younger, but he never did a PCT, never did a post-cycle therapy. So he got tested, he did a bunch of stuff, and the doc literally said after he did what he needed to do, things didn't go back to normal. He was never able to get shit back to normal. He was told he's never going to be able to have children. And he was 27 at the time. Right. Because he didn't do that shit responsibly. And when I think about
but also
like,
that doctor could be wrong.
Doctor could be wrong.
Right. That's only one opinion from it. I mean, how many times have we fucking seen people think that they'll never be able to walk again because the doctor says it and then they go to someone else. And
also we've seen in steroid athletes that could have been the case all along.
Right.
Yeah.
because we don't know previously, right?
Cool. And I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sorry.
I
Sorry
get,
to interrupt.
No,
That's,
you're totally good. I get what you're saying. But I also don't think that younger cats are paying attention to the potentially long-term detriments to something as whimsical and as non-dangerous as TRT. Because it just seems kind of odd when you're young and you're manipulating your own ability to produce this hormone, right? What happens with prolonged use? What happens if you choose to do it for 10 years and you want to come off later? Will things
And what happens
function
when
like
you're
they
30,
should?
yeah.
Will things exactly. Will things function as they should? And most people aren't trying. We talk about the habits all the time on the show. Are you getting good sleep? Are you getting good nutrition? Most people aren't dealing with all these things before they go the route of, I want to use some TRT or HRT to gain muscle. And then there's the other thing about it. If you're a younger person and if you're using whatever, if you do choose, and I've seen this happen to guys go on a cycle for a meet, they come off, they go into a depression and they don't even feel like lifting anymore. Do you think about what life is like when you're not? Will you be able to function normally? And that's why I'm just like, do the shit first, like build the habit first,
Yeah.
right? And then if you want to do that shit later, that's your prerogative. But I just see there's too many people getting on it young because of how normal we make it seem. And
Right.
how,
So
how much we
You're
ma-
saying the negative aspect of exposure on this level, like the potential.
exposure is good. It's like,
Well, no,
it's,
but
it's necessary.
like someone being like, "Hey guys, I hopped on TRT. Let me explain to you it." Just by that person coming out and saying that they did it,
But they should. That's the thing.
I know, but
yeah.
it's a double-edged sword,
It
right?
is.
Because someone will take what that person says, and then they'll be like, "Well, I really like this person."
Well, yeah, there's definitely been so much exposure to the point where we could make the judgment of there probably has been a lot younger people over the years taking performance-enhancing drugs probably than ever before, whether it be SARMs or steroids or maybe even getting TRT, which would be weird because, like, how the fuck are you supposed to get that if you're not in need of it at all? But I think it does raise a lot of awareness, but here's my thought on it. My thought on it would be that, unfortunately, you go through a period of time where a lot of people would potentially get hurt. A lot of people would potentially might have long-lasting effects, but I also think over time it would course correct. Because if it was really that detrimental, you would have people 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now saying, hey, listen, I did that when I was young. It was a fucking giant mistake. I just don't think sometimes, like, because in bodybuilding and powerlifting, we don't have WADA. We don't have WADA trying to, regulate bodybuilding and powerlifting. And we also don't have an Olympic gold medal in there either. And you can make an argument, maybe having a gold medal is more dangerous than having steroids because having a gold medal gamifies the fuck out of something so much that it makes people want to represent their country. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, I agree with everything you said 100%. I would hate to see anybody hurt themselves. I don't fucking think that anybody below the age of like 25 should mess with any hormones. Like, there's really not a lot of good reasons to mess around with hormones when you're young. SARMs you don't know shit about. Maybe there's some safe over-the-counter supplements you can try to kind of like see where you're at. I do believe you have to go in the gym and like feel shit out completely on your own because it takes so long to even know the correct feedback from your workouts, much less, trying to put performance-enhancing drugs in there. But I kind of see, like, I just wonder if you just like, oh, fuck it, like let her fly. Yeah, let her fly. I think over time it would maybe course correct, but maybe I'm way out.
And then another thought, and again, like, I still personally don't know too much about SARMs, but when I did Sarmageddon, the amount of messages I received when I put out how much I was taking, the amount of messages I received was fucking crazy. People saying like, I'm taking 10 times as much as you were taking because the gym bro told me that was safe. And I'm talking like I was taking, I think, like 20 milligrams of Ostarine, and people were like taking grams of shit.
Jeez.
And I'm just like, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. He's like, dude, I'm wondering why I'm feeling like shit because I've been doing this for 6 months. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the exposure side is like, okay, maybe if somebody does put out some good information, and I'm not saying that it was like positive or negative what I did, but I potentially did help some people like understand like, oh, you probably should be taking much less if you are going to.
Yeah.
But it is a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. It's like
Because how many people went from 0 to 20 milligrams after
Well,
that?
all anyone got after seeing Bigger, Stronger, Faster is that they need to be on steroids.
Yes.
People are like, that movie was great, man. I hopped on right away. It was fucking awesome. It's like
So that is okay. Let's consider this. Let's consider this fucking question then, because just people talking about their use. If I admire that person talking about their use, no matter what the warning signs they give me, does that detract? Is me hopping on because of that person? Is that more likely than if that person never talks about it at all?
yeah, I think it's probably going to infiltrate your world somewhere. Like if you like lifting, you're following a specific influencer. Maybe they didn't have direct influence on you, but maybe they had influence on your buddy. Your buddy starts to get a little bigger, stronger. Guys start talking about it. Yeah, I've started this cycle of something. So I could see how it could be something that I think over time will infiltrate and probably influence you quite a bit. You just totally fuked up our microphone, by the way.
Am I good? Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
So I actually, I talked to Derek quite a bit, and he says to me, he's like, I would venture to say that like the vast majority of my audience doesn't do any steroids, and they're still very interested in it. Mm-hmm. It would be really like you could do some really cool studies with his group of people.
Just polls.
Like massive polls.
I bet you probably more people than not that really enjoy his videos, that pay attention to his videos, not just watch his Instagram, but also kind of pay attention to his YouTube. I would say, I'm just going to take a wild guess, say about 70% of those people will probably experiment with something that's not over the counter.
Yeah.
Some sort of performance enhancing drug of some kind.
But I mean,
at some point.
That's where it is helpful,
Yeah.
the exposure. And this is why like it is necessary, because this stuff, when done in an educated way, can be very dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is why, like the stuff that Derek's doing, you know, talking about that stuff, and even these guys, if a lot of people follow you, right, and you're getting really big and you're using something, you should mention it, right? You should mention it, because like you're gonna get the question consistently: Are you natural? Are you natural? And if
Zach, right? Are you natural,
guys?
How much shit are you on?
We don't want to soft pedal, okay? Because we get accused of doing that all the time.
I cannot tell you how awesome it was to come in here. You guys, you're a lot bigger than I would think you are. It's like I need more people to think that.
And also, I do got to mention the soft pedaling thing that we did mention. The reason why we didn't ask Mike, "Are you on drugs?" is because the guy has said countless times he's natural. Like,
right.
It's not going to be like, "Are you on drugs, Mike?" Yeah, like we know he says he's not.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and I mean, whether you believe it or whatever, we know that. So it's not, the conversation is going to lead anywhere.
The crazy thing is, I don't fucking care if he is or if he isn't, and I don't even care if he's promoting something and he is on drugs. Like, because I know what I believe and care about. Like, I'm more interested in the discussion around the discussion, and it seems like you guys are as well.
Yeah,
it's like we're almost we come to the point where we're arguing against ourselves.
Yeah.
We're on the same team and then we're against each other. It's like, that is ultimately like the coolest thing to do. Steelman your foe's argument.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, when you start to do shit like that, it's again, like what I was saying, no matter what you're doing, as long as you're moving and not just ignoring it. So like, if you don't know, let's say, take like toxic masculinity. It's hard to define what exactly that means. What are masculine things that are toxic, and what are, but if you explore it and you steelman the argument against it and for it, you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm always there. I feel like I'm always in the middle.
Yeah. And
like somebody asked me about something.
You know
I'm
what
like,
would take you away from the middle? You know what would take you away from the middle? To not fucking think about it. Right? To not think about it at all. And then to have to come up with, I want this side or this side.
My family will get into these like discussions, and sometimes the discussions will get like a little heated, people talking about politics and stuff. And I'm just like, I have nothing to say, because like as soon as I go to say something, I'm going to even disagree with that in some way. You know what I mean?
I'll literally
like I partially agree with it, I partially disagree with it. And I'm like, I'm right in the middle somewhere.
Don't you love when you're like coming up with a point and then you just go, Well, actually, now that I think about it, you know, but that's, I swear to God, in training, it's the same way. I don't know the answer. Okay, just fucking move. Like, please don't stop moving. Please, for the love of God, just continue to move, and you'll be all right. You will, and it'll. So maybe the answer comes, maybe it doesn't, but I promise you, you'll be okay.
So why don't you use steroids? Do you still compete in the USA? Do you still compete in that list?
I could also say, why would I? You know, it's like Chris has a quote that was quoted by Huberman on his Instagram. He said, you know, alcohol is one of the only things where if someone says they don't drink, the other person asks why. You know, like something must be must be wrong.
That's what I'm thinking. You said you love strength and you want to be as strong as possible. There's something
actually,
out there that exists that's part of the program.
No, I actually don't. I don't. It's just, I don't know. I might consider it, you know?
Oh, there we go.
At least we got something.
Because
it's that no thing that gets me.
It's hard to discuss nuanced things like this when people have taken up taken up arms on either side. It's one of those things with like the use of actual drugs or like, you know,
when you say drugs, you mean like meth?
Well,
like, what are you talking about? Like drugs
like
and steroids
like,
or
no,
drugs?
like
mushrooms or something.
Mushrooms, acid, things like that. There's a lot of, it's tricky wording there. And I don't want to come across as like saying, hey kids, go do drugs. They're actually okay for you. Like, there's too much variance in the way that people think, in the way that they approach things to give any sort of absolute answers or any sort of absolute suggestions. But to say that it's impossible for somebody to take drugs and experiment with themselves and say that that person's a bad person, right? You cannot say shit. Like, I do not believe that people should be saying shit like that. Right. And that's where you can get into trouble on either sides.
Yeah.
So like, that's where I'm like, yeah, maybe at some point, I don't know. I like the idea that people are their own people. They can do their own thing and they can handle what comes at them. And I like to think that I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like Joe Rogan on his show. He's like, look, we've battled against cigarettes for a long, long time. And there is definitely reason for that. Because something needed to be said, like it really was about advertising. It's not actually so much about like the precedent set for advertising. It's not really so much about the health conditions which were occurring, but it was a result of the advertising. And this is where, you know, potentially if there was advertising from guys, I mean, if we look at the old muscle magazines and all these things, like you have a guy who's ridiculous looking and he's selling creatine or whey protein. That's where it's like, okay, we need to fucking put an end to that shit. Okay, that's bullshit. That's always going to be bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, look like this guy if you take this supplement.
But might inspire a young kid to hit the gym.
It could.
And to take some creatine.
Yeah, but it could also inspire them to take steroids. But I guess I'm kind of like going off on these little tangents. But Joe Rogan was talking about cigarettes and he's like a little bit of nicotine, you know, if you're not addicted, like there is a line to these things. There has to be. We can't just simply say, we can't just stigmatize everything or take up arms against something.
Yeah.
There's that saying, it's like stand for something or whatever.
Fall for anything.
Fall for anything. How can that be true all the time?
Yeah, that's dangerous.
How can that be true? Like fall for anything? Like I guess there are certain times where you like, I guess then maybe I'm a fucking gullible person, or maybe I'm somebody like I'm definitely very forgiving. Like I've had people do, you know, fucked up shit to me and I've forgiven them. And maybe that's the type of, and that's not always a good thing. You know, there are people that you should get out of your life no matter what they're able to do later on. But maybe that's kind of the idea where like, I don't always stand for something.
Yeah.
But that might be what people are interested in me for. It's like, I don't fucking know the answer, guys. Come with me on this journey while I fucking find it out, or hopefully try to find it out and write a 5-paragraph essay about it.
Something I think that can be important is to share experiences with people on your own like what you've experienced with something. So like for myself with like mushrooms, like I don't feel like mushrooms are addictive for me. I don't even really like taking them, but I still take them here and there just to kind of go on a journey. Drugs, music, exercise, these are all things that can help take me to different places. And so sometimes I want to end up in a different spot or have my mood kind of change to a different spot. Maybe I'll do it with Kratom, or maybe,
By the way, this was fantastic.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
How you feel?
Great.
Yeah, good.
Seriously.
Good.
Like, I feel like I could train. I want to train pretty hard.
People use
if
it
we're
as
gonna after
pre-workout.
this.
Fuck
I don't know.
What did you think of the legendary sweet roll?
Oh, yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, cinnamon
Yeah.
roll, right? Yeah.
I like that it has carbs in it, actually. Oh, it only has 5 carbs?
5
Five
net
net.
carbs.
What does that mean?
Science.
He's like, I need more
There's
carbs.
something about
It says
the-
22 grams carbs.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
I like supplements with carbs in them,
Mhm.
Because that's what gives me energy to train.
Yeah, you
But
want a
anyways,
little oomph.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add in real quick too. You asked him why he's chosen not to. There's something where I've thought about if I was 16 or 17, because like when I started lifting, I remember it. I remember my motivations. I remember what drove me. I remember the videos that I pulled up to pump me up before going to the gym. And I remember that I was always someone who wanted to figure out the bestest way to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to figure out the best ways to optimize everything I was
Right,
doing. Like I
right.
had my mom get me fucking
Yeah.
whey, like the bodybuilding.com whey protein from Costco. She got me some creatine. She's like, "Are you sure you should be taking that whey? You're getting kind of big."
Yeah.
But I also know that if I was in this generation, like if I was a lifter in this generation, I would have absolutely been on test pretty fucking early, because I wouldn't have had the time to see what my development would have been like, right? And the reason why I've never done anything is because by the time I learned about a lot of that stuff, I already put on a good amount of muscle. I was already so deep into the game that I was
Yeah.
like, wait, why would I start now? Progression's good. I'm feeling great. But I put in the time. And I've thought about this. I thought about, would I have? And I think I would have hopped on TRT if I was in this information age,
Yeah.
where it's so normal and it's something that can speed you up to look like the person that you enjoy or the person that you look up to. If they're doing it, I would have. And I don't think that's a good thing personally, because it would deter me from putting in the time.
What do you guys think about the idea of like, hey, it's none of your fucking business, because like it's like it essentially can become like a medicinal type of thing. So, people take drugs all the time to do better at the things that they might be poor in,
Yes.
and they get prescribed them. So, say I want to be on TRT, and I go to a doctor, and they get me on TRT,
Mhm.
and I feel fucking good.
Mm.
I sleep better, wake up. Why do I have to fucking announce that to the world? It's the same thing as like, I started taking Viagra and I have a lot better sex with my wife now. Like someone could say that, but it's like, why would I have to announce that to the world? I think
Because she's finally
when
coming.
you're in fitness, when you're in
So we could
fitness and you're
celebrate.
showing off your body, right? When you're showing off your body and when you're mainly that's it, right? Like,
Yeah,
this is
people-
what I'm showing off to you.
Yeah.
That's where the pressure of like, I have to announce that to people. But if you think about Joe Rogan, it really is no one's fucking business if he's on or if he isn't, because that's not what we care about. Him being on testosterone, sure. There are a ton of people not in strength and conditioning or in this field, if you want to call it industry, that are taking testosterone that we don't fucking know about, and I don't give a fuck if they are. That's a drug that their doctor prescribes to them that they get and they are out, So at what point would we look at things like that? It's an important thing to think about.
I think Joe Rogan talks about it just because he talks so much about like health and nutrition
Yeah,
and stuff.
yes,
And I
yeah.
think he feels compelled to share that. But obviously we're not going to like share everything
Yeah.
out with people.
Yeah.
But there are like weird lines, there's people
Arbitrary lines.
Well, people sell a lot of stuff that they don't believe in. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and it's been done forever, and I don't have any. Like if Michael Jordan didn't go to McDonald's, I don't have any judgment against that. Who gives a fuck? He got good money from
Exactly.
it. Maybe he always hated Nike. I don't know. Like me, these different people that receive, finances and a living and then some. You can't always pinpoint it. But I think sometimes if you go out of your way to be deceitful, that's when things get a little weird. That's when that's when I think some people will be disappointed. I think one of the Kardashians was selling something with your eyelashes or something, and she was swearing by this thing is the thing that made her eyelashes grow, but she had some other procedure or some other drug or whatever the hell it was done. And I think things like that is where people get upset.
Yeah, you got to go really out of your way to lie.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing here with steroids. Well, if you're trying to sell a product, this is what I use, this is how I do it, but you're leaving out like the X, Y, and Z of how you actually really did it,
and it can make a huge difference.
I mean,
make a huge difference. Yeah.
In the short time that I've known you, and even before that, I don't give a fuck that you're on or we're on, because you've proven yourself to be a worthwhile person, a nice person, and you speak well. You have talents. You have art outside of just your body and your performance. You have. See
him. I'm not just a body,
but he
treats me like a piece of meat.
Oh, but you're like, you have things out that are like, you made sure to develop things outside of performance and what you look like, and I think then if that's the case, then it's okay. Like, I don't really care. But I think maybe someone who is literally just a fucking insanely good looking person because of the drugs that they take, or they can lift a lot of weight because of the drugs they can take, that's where the pressure becomes a lot harder on them, right? To say something. Yeah. To say something.
But this is interesting. When I first got on social media, I was like 2014 or whatever. And my first few posts, I was always getting the question, are you natural? Are you natural? Are you natural? The answer has always been yes. But I got tired of having to answer that question, so I made my username the Natty Professor, because it's in the fucking name. You don't need to ask me anymore if I'm natural. It's right there, right?
Yeah.
But also within that, I was trying to put forward content that could get people interested in training.
Yeah.
And
yes,
I wanted people to know, like, hey, I wasn't saying, hey, you can look like me, but I was saying, hey, if you do these habits, if you make the gym a part of your life, if you do this for years, because when I started making content, I was already 9 years into training. If you do this for years, you will be able to achieve a physique and strength levels that you'll be very surprised about, but it's going to take time.
Right.
It's going to take time. So I'm someone who, on everything I've made, the question's always there, right? The funny thing is that since I had that username, people thought that since I had Natty in my username, that automatically said I wasn't natural, because if you announce that you're natural, that means you're lying.
You're lying, yeah.
Which is a weird concept. Yeah. But then I changed it to Nsima Inyang, because that started getting that Natty Professor username just got too much fucking hate, and it was detracting from the content about habits.
Yeah.
Build this, make this your lifestyle. Do that for an amount of time. But I will also say, I put a lot of importance on that, because I think that it's important. I think it's important to, if you're just doing this to gain muscle strength and size, you need to give yourself the time. You don't need to just hop on like that. That might speed some certain things up for you. But you need to love this shit first. I mean, this needs to be part of your life. It's not.
And if people are following you for your fitness prowess, they should know one way or the other how you're getting there.
Yes.
Right.
And the question's always there.
Man, the vanity game is a tough one. And I'm so happy I don't have to be in it.
When you say that, what do you mean?
What do you mean? To take your shirt off. Like you are your, like, if you take your shirt off, or a woman, like, just being sexy, just like looking good, and that's it. That's your game. Like, that's gotta fucking suck at some point. This is just an off the cuff thought. Like, you're not a person, you are a body. And that's a crazy thing, right? Because now we're looking at performance, and we're looking at the body and developing it, and say you are on drugs, say you're not on drugs. It's always going to be in question, because that is your body. That's it. There's nothing else we know about. I personally, if you had something to develop, if you're a good looking person and you had something to develop that would prove yourself elsewhere, like, go fucking do that as soon as possible. Please make yourself multidimensional, because fucking looks fade, and the world is a cruel, cruel place. I mean, I swear to God, I didn't know, because before having any sort of prevalence in social media, I just like, I swear to God, I didn't care what people looked like so much. And it's crazy how much that changes based off of how many times and how many comments you continually read. Like, I would set up my camera and I'd record a video, and people would point out things in the background. They point out like crazy shit, and you're like, wait a minute, is this how the world works? Because I'm never in that space ever. I'm never in that space at all. And then when I went into weightlifting, I was even more not in that space. Like, there would be a woman lifting in the background, and people would be like, damn, who's that? You know, like, I'd be like,
Wedding ring.
holy shit, I don't give a fuck so hard about, like, I really, really don't care about what people look like in weightlifting. You know why? Because all I fucking care about is the total.
Yeah.
What's your fucking total? That's the only thing that matters. People are dressed in singlets. It's pretty skimpy if you think about it, like very tight, form-fitting shit. We don't have enough. I swear to God, as coaches and as athletes in the back room, we do not have time to think about, oh, that person's fat, that person's jacked, that person's hot, that person's ugly. Like, we just don't have time or the mind space. And if you're thinking that, get the fuck out, because the only thing that matters is the weight on the bar. That's it, dude. And it was so
Not
wild.
for sponsorships, though.
Well, it was wild.
If you got a big
taking that-
ass, you're going to get more sponsorship.
Taking that though, and
Right?
presenting it like I had a woman athlete, and I was teaching her a couple things in the snatch, and like I posted it like without thinking about it, you know, and then like endless comments talking about her looks and her body, and I'm like, oh fuck, like this is how it is, you know, and it's definitely warped.
Like, I don't understand. She was doing stiff-legged deadlifts. I'm not sure what the big deal was.
Yeah, I was filming from like a downward upward angle. No, and I'm not doing this to be like the fucking white knight, you know. Like, I look at women and I'm like, oh, she's hot. You know, like, yeah, but it is a very, very weird world, and I'm really like, I'm glad that I was able to develop something outside of like the way that I look in this, because it is a fast track for sure. Looking good, oh my God, can get you so far in this industry and fitness. It's like, you know,
It makes a big difference.
The one thing I actually I don't mind Greg so much, and I know you guys don't either. And the one thing I do like about him is when he talks about like, he likes to take down a lot of charlatans, and I like to do that as well. But he talks about like the looking good aspect of it and how much success it brings that person.
Yeah.
It's like a factor that he factors into everyone, right? Like, just being a good looking person can get you so far, which it shouldn't, by the way, because that's insane. That's ridiculous to be like, that person knows more, that person is smarter, that person, you know, what they're selling is more legit just because they're good looking. But that's just how the human brain ends up working. But that is one thing that he talks about that I enjoy thinking about, you know.
But it
Yeah,
does,
go ahead.
but it, like, that's the thing in fitness. I think that's why I don't know how people can actually do natty or nots where they actually truly make sense, where there are no holes. But that's why that stuff makes sense, because there's a lot of people where when you start paying attention to their information, outside of how they look, when they start speaking about the topic of fitness or gaining strength or whatever, you legit listen. Someone newer may not understand what to look for. They might just be like, oh, that's great. But you will listen to somebody and you'd be like, oh, Jesus, this is fucking horrible.
Right. Yes.
Right. It's so, you know, that's
Looks
why
is where a lot of stuff starts.
it's where a lot of stuff
I mean,
starts,
relationship-wise, you see somebody that looks nice, that's how you start a conversation. You
Yeah,
don't-
man.
You're not like trying to pick out the worst-looking person.
Yeah.
I sometimes I think about this. I just realized it says Zoolander's pad on it.
In our text threads, we were going back like Zach
Zoolander, yeah. What was I? Oh man,
Something about good looking. He mentioned relationship start. People,
right. I never really. Honestly, there's one thing about my looks that actually gained me a little bit of traction, and it was that I don't look like a weightlifter. And when I would lift something, people would be like, whoa, shit, that was surprising.
Yeah, it actually probably made a big deal that you're tall, right?
Yes,
Because people
yes.
are like, oh, I'm tall too. I didn't think I would be
Of
able to do
course.
some of this stuff. right?
Yeah. Yes. 100%. And yeah, I mean, I fucking hate the idea of like, do you even lift? It's like, well, yeah, I just fucking did. I just showed you. Like this guy looks like a DYEL, you know, whatever. Like, but I lift. I just did. I just lifted for you. You know what I mean? Like that's the shit that bothers me.
People got to see you in person, bro.
And then, yeah.
Once they do, they're like, "Oh, you do lift." But yeah,
Yeah,
you're a
like,
big dude.
I don't know. Looking at me now, and I said I deadlift over 600 pounds. Would you believe it?
Nope.
Really?
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 He was joking, dude.
Okay. Well, that did not work.
His heart sunk. He was like,
Well, what? I'm like, well, then this fucking, you know, fuck.
I got you down for a 315 deadlift with a belt. And
"We need
chalk.
to clip that," because your face was like, "Really?"
Fuck, you guys are just telling me how I actually look big in person.
Huge. Yeah, you got big old mitts and stuff. Yeah, of course. I think you can pick up 600 pounds.
That was so good.
So, but like in general, like, I actually did just PR my deadlift. It was 620. It was awesome.
Nice.
Let's go.
And
Fuck yeah.
like the main comment is like, wow, that's so crazy for a guy that looks like you. You know? and that's what okay, well,
Words are hurtful.
well, no, but like here's a guy who's deadlifted for you know,
Forever.
as long as I've been born.
Nice.
It was a grind for sure.
It's pretty smooth though.
Yeah, it was. It kept moving on.
And you know, you're someone who would say, "Oh yeah, I fucking believe he would do a 600-pound deadlift," right?
Right.
But no, don't take his word for it, right? It's like you know more because of how people look on the internet, which is just ridiculous. And that's also why I love weightlifting.
I wonder, do people think you're like thin, like real thin or something?
Yeah. Yes.
Because you're what? You're 240, 235?
I think we got to weigh myself. Do you guys have a
Yeah, we have a scale.
Yeah. Probably like I want to say 245.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
It's
a
a-
dense dude.
A big person.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been anywhere near 200 pounds in forever. I'm sure neither of you guys.
You said you got
It's been a long time.
You said you got pretty heavy too, right?
Yeah, man. I was really buying into weightlifting, and somebody at my height, you got to have a frame. I mean, you have the frame, you got to have the body weight behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Lasha is a great example. Lasha's 6'6".
Holy shit.
yeah. And we
I
have the
did not
same size.
realize that.
He and I have the same size hands, same wingspan.
Wait, let me see your hand.
Big old mitt right there.
Jesus.
We have the same size hands, same wingspan,
Yeah.
but he weighs over 60 or 70 kilos more than me.
Mm.
Right. So that's kind of like where we're at. So for me, it was like I was doing some crazy eating, and it's like I'm almost nervous to talk about how much I was eating like it was a big deal with this fucking guy next to me, because like the legendary shit of like you would talk about that you would eat and put yourself through just to fucking lift more weight. Like, you know, that grind more
Yeah.
than anyone.
How much did you eat, Zach?
So-
I gotta know.
So like the breakfast, my favorite breakfast was 6 eggs, 2 bagels with cream cheese on them, and then a half of like a roll of Jimmy Dean's sausage mixed in,
There we go.
and a protein shake.
the breakfast sausage just made the calories go.
Yeah. Oh my God, man. It was so many calories. It was absurd. And then I would have a protein shake after, like
Yeah.
an hour after, and then an hour later I'd go train. And so I got up to 120. So that's 265.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I could feel like my blood pressure was getting higher.
Yeah.
I could feel.
Oh, that's strength.
yeah.
That's the feeling of being strong. That
Yeah.
feels really good.
Yeah. I have,
A 45-pound plate feels like a frisbee.
What's up?
I'm sure people watching have seen like the
You're like-
eye. Have you seen me pop my eye?
Oh, did you?
Vessels?
Oh shit.
I did
Is
it
it
at
like
Juji
during the
Mufu's house.
That's brutal when that happens.
Yeah, being that heavy is not
Go to Juji Mufu. Just search.
I saw SpongeBob.
Search.
Yeah.
I love SpongeBob.
Juji Mufu, Zach Telander. And there's a
Oh,
part.
it's Telander?
Telander.
Oh, I thought it was Telander.
Whatever. Actually, you know what?
Telander.
Telander would be more close to the actual Swedish pronunciation, I think. But we always went with Telander. So you're
Being Swedish, is most of your family fairly tall or no?
Yes. Yeah. 3 older sisters, all of them over 5'8". So,
Are you the tallest?
yes. My dad, he's shrinking, but this is it.
He's about the same height.
This is fucked up, by the way, guys.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
See, I should have let out air. I should have let my air out. You see my eyes?
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
So I figured out this thing where when I get to that point of grinding,
Oh.
Did
I
blood
should let
shoot
out, I have to let air out as I'm like passing my knees. And I've actually found it out. I was so nervous. I was like, guys,
Wow.
have you ever seen something like that?
I've seen a guy bleed out of his eyes. Did you have blood come out of your eyes?
No. I could feel it happening though inside my skin, man. It was fucked
Oh
up.
my God.
Super not healthy. Not healthy at all. It doesn't have anything to do with like, I mean, when I was here, I wasn't like very heavy.
Yeah.
Show it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. Did you kind of like yell or scream as you were lifting?
No,
Is that
so-
part of it or no?
Again, like I was able to PR with nothing to my eyes. There's a moment where I'm like really grinding and I hold my breath, like take a breath in
Mm-hmm.
and I hold it.
Brace,
But then
yeah.
I'm starting to grind really hard right at about the knees.
Mhm.
And what I've started to do is just go like while I'm passing that point,
Mhm.
nothing happens.
Fuck.
So it's just an internal blood pressure that I'm building up here. Super fucked up, man.
Did your eyeballs turn all red the next couple days
Nope.
and stuff? Bloodshot?
No,
No.
it's just that area. I used to in CrossFit when I would do handstand push-ups.
You
Just being-
CrossFit?
Yeah. Oh man, that's how I started.
Oh, shit.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay.
I started doing handstand push-ups.
This guy.
And I would get like the little sprinkles of pops. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah,
It's
we
happened
blow
to me
out
in jujitsu.
the capillaries. You
Just-
blow out the capillaries.
Yeah.
It's happened on my neck before.
Well, no, like just the blood pressure buildup from getting
Whoa.
choked.
God, you went
That's
crazy.
fucking
Yeah, I
Check
thought
this
he
shit out.
was
Look at-
bleeding there, but looks like, oh, Jesus.
that's
I bet you the
Pretty
jaw,
jacked in that video.
the jaw
Not
might have
bad.
played
Not
into
bad
that too.
lighting.
Yeah, you
it's
do
just
look
crazy
jacked.
how it turned. Boop.
Who else is lifting with you? You got
Some pretty fucking strong guys. You know Joey Zatmary?
no, I don't think I'm familiar.
Juji.
One guy was real
That's
jacked.
Marcus Leone. He's done 400 kilos.
Damn.
And then
There was a guy there.
Ian
that-
Daniel.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
we go. Rhino.
He's done, I don't know what he is. That's Joey.
Jesus, these guys are lifting some weight.
Yeah. Strong dudes, big dudes. So that's that. I don't know how we got onto that track, but yeah. So I was heavy as shit when I was at that point in my life, but I worked all the way back down to like 97 kilos body weight for jujitsu, which was cool. That was really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I was in crazy, like, when you can feel like you can just run around a lot, just like run.
Yeah.
Just- and in jujitsu, like it sucks for me when I try to get back into shape for jujitsu because I can't not put in like big bouts of effort, like big, just like it's not even like I'm being a spaz. It's like because I have a lot of force in what I do, just from lifting, it's hard for me to control that. So I can feel the exact moment when I lose my fitness almost entirely. And once it's gone and you're in a roll and like someone's on top of you or they're, even in a slightly more dominant position, it is really, really unforgiving, that sport, especially in the gi. Like, you guys had Huberman on here, which by the way, he did the cool mitt thing. That was fucking awesome because what that said to me was like, the gi is essentially the ultimate, it's the opposite of what you want in a sport.
Mm-hmm.
You're wearing a sauna,
Yeah.
right? And if Huberman's point was muscle fatigue is not actually being tired, it's just heat.
Mm-hmm.
well, then you're kind of fucked. If you know what I mean? Like you got to get used to having that heat on you because I never played a sport where as hot as jiu-jitsu. Not even close. Football, all the pads in the world under the sun, not even fucking close. I swear on my life, it's not even close.
Probably makes you more resilient at a certain point.
The gi?
Yeah.
For sure.
I've never thought about
For
that.
sure. Yeah, because it's hot. It's heat, right? It's like you have to learn how to adapt to not just performing, but in the heat. You're creating the hottest possible place.
I was thinking about like I've thought about that before in jiu-jitsu with the gi, but I've also thought about it like out on a run. I'm like, how do I if I bring water with me and dump it on me, like that would help me. Sometimes just getting so fucking hot. It's like part of the dehydration thing is like you can only take in so much liquid.
Right.
And it's hard to keep up with the amount that you're losing.
Yeah, the cooling down is like so important.
Right.
That's why that Cool Mitt thing was so cool, that video that he did with you guys.
As a guy who's, you've done weightlifting and a bunch of other stuff, how long ago did you start jiu-jitsu and why?
So Ian Daniel, the guy in that video, he
Ian
came,
the Rhino, guys.
Yeah.
Check him out on IG.
Yeah. So he came for my birthday, for my 30th birthday. And he's like, I'm taking you to the gym because my professor at my gym says I got to go to this place while I'm here. I really want to train while I'm here. I'm like, fuck yeah. The coolest thing about when I started jiu-jitsu was like I knew a decent amount about it. It's hard to, if you don't know the rules, it's kind of like chess in that it's hard to understand the purpose. Like if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish in jiu-jitsu, it's fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
You're in someone's close guard and you're like, okay, what now? Like, I don't get it. Like, what am I supposed to do now? But the good thing was I knew what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I just knew what the point was. So I was able to catch on a lot faster.
Did you like
I watched a ton.
jiu-jitsu?
No, I
You
just
watched it.
watched a ton of the sport just because I was interested. I just watched it. So I started to understand those aspects of it. So I had a little advantage, but he took me, he left, and I just kept going. So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that was one where I don't know there's ever been such an intense takeover on my brain in my fucking life. I lost countless nights of sleep because I was just thinking about jiu-jitsu in my brain. I couldn't stop it. I could not stop it. It was crazy. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever felt something like that. Like even
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you new to jiu-jitsu?
Extremely new.
Yeah, and it's like it's wild what it does to your brain, man.
You start like even just looking at like regular like dumb shit like street fights or whatever where somebody knows a little bit about grappling. Before I would look at that and be like, oh, this is terrible or whatever. But then if they have like some skill, like rewind it. How did they get into that position?
Yeah.
I just look at everything differently, and then you start like following like shit on Reddit, like in jiu-jitsu, and like you just really dive all in. And it's hard to imagine anything else that's quite like that.
So one thing I realized that about jiu-jitsu in the gi, your low back is going to be fucked. In no gi, your neck and your shoulders are going to be fucked. So that's my theory, because in the gi, if someone's putting pressure on you, they have handles on your legs and they can just fold you with the amount of force that's really unnatural just because of the handles.
Oh, you mean if they grab your legs and they stack you?
Yeah, but then there's also other times where they can hold your pant and pull you. You know, the forces at play, specifically on the low back, are much more intense. And then why I say no-gi, a lot of ties and like Russian collar, like all these collar ties. And then even when you're playing guard, you should pull someone's head down. You should be manipulating their head. So it's always like this. So, you know, your shoulders because of this hunching. So it's like, lately I've been wanting to build, just get bigger and build my weightlifting again. I just couldn't do it at all with jiu-jitsu.
How long did it take to get your blue belt?
A year and a month.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah.
You're watching it a lot.
Yeah, I was going like crazy, man. I was going sometimes 2 times a day and stuff like that. So I really went probably too hard at first. And I was competing, doing pretty well in competitions, but I'm going to make my way back to it. So this is something that I can't believe I haven't mentioned yet. This guy approached me 4 or 5 years ago. He emailed me and he said, I want to make a feature film about weightlifting. And if you want to read the script, I'd love to send it to you. And if you want to be involved, I'd love for you to be involved. So he sent me the script. I read it. I was like, that was fucking amazing, man. I love it. I love the script. Not even from a weightlifting. You could insert any sport into it and it would be good. And I was also from a film and television background. So I have always been interested in creating content, whether it be story-based, whether it be documentary-based. I want to make something and present it to people with visuals and editing. So that's where I went to school for. So I was like, oh my God, this is a chance for me to get into the thing that I had a dream to do outside of sport, outside of like, it was sports for me all the time. But if there's one thing I wanted to do was make movies or make content. I was like, holy shit, this is it. That was 4 years ago. So what happened was he said, the main character, it's going to be very difficult to cast the main character for this movie because we are not going to use a double. And it's one of those things where we can't really fake it, the movement. And so much of this is going to be about sound design, and mixing the sound with the visuals is so, like, you guys know, like watching weightlifting, there's something about the synesthesia of the sound and the visuals of it, the grace and the mobility and the power. It truly is a visual spectacle that makes you think.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need that. And that's going to be very difficult. And so I was like, well, look, I've done a few auditions. I've been in production for a while. Like, this is what I used to do. Give me the sides and I will read them. And you determine if I can fit the bill for this character.
Okay.
So I practiced a week with one of my buddies who's an acting coach. And then we did a table reading of it. And then I sent the video to him and his team, the cinematographer, the director of photography, and then another producer, and then another guy. And they were like, look, like, we can tell you're not really an actor, but we think you can do this. So if you were willing to do it, we would have to, there's a lot that needs to be done before all that. But yeah, we would like you to be this main character.
Oh shit.
So, my idea was I want to produce movies. Like, I want to, I don't care so much to be an actor, but I was like, wow, this is a really rad opportunity. But since that happened 4 years ago, we've been trying to raise money and trying to build this thing up. And now we're finally really like we're getting down to the wire and we're getting very close. Over the pandemic, we made a Kickstarter, and we hit our goal right when COVID started, which was probably the worst time to start a fucking Kickstarter. I would not suggest it. And we made $100K from that. We then got a lawyer, and we've hired a couple other people to build out the back end of this thing. So like, we can shoot right when we get all these things together. And one of the reasons why we got a lawyer was because we then created what's called a WeFunder. And the WeFunder is not something like a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. WeFunder, you can actually invest. And so when the movie makes a profit, you make a profit as well. Wow. So that's something that we're building right now. But he set the date for February. So fingers crossed, we'll be shooting in Buffalo, New York for, I don't know exactly how many days, but we'll be shooting and we'll be getting this fucking thing done. The moment he said that, like, it's all just been like, yeah, we'll get the fucking, we'll do this movie one day for sure, man. And so I was like, I did jujitsu for 2 years. I'm not worried about looking the part, but I am 6'4". Like I said, I have a long wingspan. In order for me to look like a 105 to 110 kilo weightlifter, I actually have to be 120 kilos, right? So about 2 months ago, I said this on my YouTube channel. It's like, I'm going to do hypertrophy training and I'm going to do weightlifting training. And I've been sticking to that for a long, long time. So I've actually put on a lot of weight, but it's all weight that I lost from doing jujitsu. And so that's mainly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's
so you're going to take steroids for the role.
No.
Oh.
And
God damn it.
No,
Well, we got the anabolic handbook right there. For you.
Just in case.
Yep, it's in Seamus.
Whoa.
He wrote it.
I think that's Mark's original copy.
Holy shit. This thing's huge. I thought it was going to be like a little handbook. This is a fucking.
It's a real book. Look at that.
Yeah, dive right on in.
But yeah, so look, like that's where I'm at in my training, and I was like, I got to give up jujitsu for this. Like, I can't go into the gym and do that, and it's tough because like I do look like I'm just having the blue belt blues. You know, it's like perfect timing for that.
I wondered why you stopped. Okay.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
All right, get ready for Smelly's tip, everybody, coming up. Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. For everything podcast related, where you guys can find us, just head over to powerproject.live. But make sure you guys are following, and make sure you guys drop a comment down below on the YouTube side at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Simo, where you at?
This was a thick podcast,
Thicky,
man.
3 hours.
Good shit. I think
Thick.
let us know what you guys liked the most, like what Zach talked about, or what you hated from me or Mark. Let us know.
Kids on steroids. Yay.
Mark Bell for
So I'm gonna
president.
clip that shit. And see me Indy on Instagram, YouTube, and see Yin Yang on TikTok and Twitter. Make sure to check out the Discord. Mr. Zoolander, where can people find you? Are you? Can I call you Zoolander?
Sure.
All right. Is that okay? Is
Yeah,
Zach, where can
YouTube,
people find you?
YouTube, Zach Telander. That's my name, ZACKTELANDER.
Yeah.
Also go to Coach_ZT. That's my Instagram. I also have some programs. If you want to get better at weightlifting or learn how to weightlift, go to patreon.com/Zach Telander. And if you would like to check out this feature film that we're trying to make, go to wefunder.com and just search The Weight.
We'll have it in the description.
That's the name of the
link.
movie, The Weight on WeFunder. And just check it out. Just look at it. You'll be like, oh, maybe I want to invest in this thing. Be cool.
Fuck yeah.
Amazing.
That's cool, man.
Smelly's tip is for you to get yourself a negative role model. This was said by your roommate, Chris Williamson, on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting. There are probably people in your life that that you don't look up to, that are the opposite of a role model. And you could look at some of those things that they did and say, I don't want that life. Think about the things that they did. Think about the way they treated people, or the, whatever the things are that they did, the bad habits they had, and fucking get yourself going in the opposite direction. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Fuck yeah.
Dude.
That was fantastic.